Really look forward to a productive meeting this morning and look forward to continuing this collaborative effort of making sure that we're doing what's good and what's right for students across the state of Montana from pre-K all the way through higher education. We are certainly happy to have members of the Education Interim Committee here on Montana State University Northern Campus. As Chancellor Kegel can tell you, there's tons of exciting things that are happening here at Northern, and I understand that several of you had the opportunity to take some tours and learn more about the impact that this campus is having here in Havre and across the Highline and across the state of Montana. In a few minutes, we're going to hear from David Kruger, who's the Dean of the College of Technical Sciences here, and learn about how Northern is strengthening and expanding the opportunities for career and technical education. We know this is a particularly important topic for you as it is for us and the legislature, and understanding how important it is to expand opportunities in CTE as it is one of our key priorities, mutual priorities across each of our institutions. We've also made significant strides in ensuring that high school students have access to customized information about higher education, particularly including CTE, as well as how those opportunities really connect to the specific career paths that we have demands for and needs for in our great state. Through the recently launched Resident Student Access portal, students can now explore career and expanded workforce related data, find information on financial resources, and explore the types of degrees and certificates that are available throughout the Montana university system. We know this is an important resource not only to our young people, but as well to our families and our parents. And so we're really proud. I think you'll continue to hear us retell the story about the power of this portal, and we really look forward to you as well getting a chance to get into the portal and see what's in there, and also be a vocal spokespeople for making sure that our Montana families are aware of the portal and aware of the opportunities that exist in the Montana university system. With that, I'll turn it over to Chair McLafferty and for any opening remarks, and then I can give a quick preview of the discussions we hope to have this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for letting us, or having us here with this joint session that we're about to begin. We were visiting yesterday, and we all look forward to coming to these meetings and talking about our university system with you. We haven't had the opportunity until now to come up to Havre and see what the Havre Montana University system had to offer up here. And every one of us were very impressed with the system. And I have to just say kudos to all of you for working so hard like you do for our students here in Montana. With that, I'm just going to say thank you very much, and we look forward to this meeting.
Thank you, Chair McLafferty. In preparation for today's discussion, we kind of reflected on the conversations that we had together in Missoula in November, and really identified some of the key priorities that are most important to this committee, as well as what's important to the Montana university system. And so we've identified 4 areas of discussion today, and we'll have a number of different presentations. I certainly urge you all to not be shy, to jump in with questions, thoughts, or ideas as we listen and learn about some of these important initiatives that we have moving forward. That being said, I'd like to call up Deputy Commissioner Brock Tessman, who will introduce some of these items as well as some of our speakers this morning. Thank you, Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the committee, members of the board, definitely a privilege to be here. Chancellor Kegel, thanks again for a really memorable meeting thus far, and then we've got a packed morning. My job, two things. One is to get out of the way as quickly as I can so you can get to the substance of these presentations. But two, just thought it might make sense to set the stage a little bit. I think you're used to hearing about a lot of different initiatives and projects and directions for the university system, and it occurs to me that sometimes it might not be clear how every one of those things fits together. And you'll hear about the great CTE and ag programs here at Northern, maybe a bit about accelerated apprenticeships. You'll hear about growth and dual enrollment, this fantastic Grow Your Own Educator program, and then this idea of a Montana Innovation Alliance. How do they fit together? I mean, there are basically three things that we do in terms of serving students and serving the state. The first one is all about access, right? Lowering information barriers, creating additional appreciation for the return on investment, basically connecting more Montanans to the promise of higher education. And some of that happens through things like the central application, that Apply Montana portal that Chair Lozar just spoke about. Access is the first part of the puzzle for us. But it's also about access to a credential, to a degree. Access doesn't do you a lot of good if you don't finish, if you don't achieve what you set out to achieve. So the second part of the puzzle is about success. For each student who joins the university system, we want to make sure they have the best shot to make it through in a minimal amount of time, high quality training, low debt. So things like Montana 10, the discussion we had about mental health yesterday, a lot of that is about student success, making sure students get through and achieve what they set out to achieve. And then the last thing, kind of apt given what you'll hear about today, is about development. Right? And development carries on a few different meanings here. The first one is personal, right? I mean, and for our graduates, we understand what a college education does for them and their families. And I'm sure you've heard us talk about that. There are other forms of development that come through a college education, and one of them is workforce and economic development. So the Dean Kruger will talk about the apprenticeship training. We know about all of the diesel tech and trades programs here. These are crucial workforce development strategies. And the university system oftentimes starts there when we're building new programs, designing new initiatives. It's about that. It's not always just about workers. It's also about innovation and technology. Happens to be the case that innovation and technology creates new businesses, creates new jobs. So that Innovation Alliance presentation from Director Joe Teal, it's about economic development. I mean, $300 million plus every single year flows into the state through the research, knowledge, and innovation enterprise in the system. The last kind of development, though, I think it's worth underscoring, especially in Havre, community development. And maybe this is a bit about workforce, but if you think about the way the university system helps communities grow, and grow the way they want to grow, but grow nonetheless. The presentation from Director Angela McLean on the Grow Your Own program, we heard this morning during the community breakfast about the trouble recruiting educators to Havre. I think that's a shared struggle across the state. But the Grow Your Own program is this terrific example of reaching out to students while they're still in high school, providing a good pathway for them to learn and ultimately work here in their home community. So that community development is important to us as well. I am going to get out of the way now, but just as you listen to these presentations, think about how they fit into those three things: access and success and development. Really appreciate the opportunity, I think, to introduce our first speaker, Dean Dave Kruger, and you're going to talk about some of the CTE ag programs and maybe the Accelerated Apprenticeship program as well. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Brock. Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, Regents, committee members, it's a pleasure for me to join you here this morning and talk about career and technical education. That is my passion. I do believe that's one of the reasons, or maybe the main reason, why Chancellor brought me here from Michigan to Havre, is to really work on and enhance what we currently do. I remember it was my very first year here. We were sitting over in the Commons area over there in Donaldson. We had a meeting with our leadership, and the chancellor looked at us and he said, "Who are we?" I think we were working on our vision and mission. He said, "Who are we? And what do we stand for?" And, you know, I had been here maybe 6 months, and I raised my hand. In just that 6 months that I had been here, I knew the answer. I said, "We are career and technical education." That's why I said, "We are career and technical education." Granted, we offer bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, and we have certificates and associate degrees that lead to that. The foundation of who we are in my college is career and technical education. And so I'm going to share a little bit with you about that. I wanted you to know that our career and technical education starts with our relevant industry-driven programs that are strategically aligned with our secondary partners out there and vetted through our industry. I don't know that I have to spend a lot of time on that. Those of you who were with us on Tuesday night, you saw that. You saw the industry that was there and where that comes from. So I'm going to move on just to highlight some of our programs so you have a chance to see our CTE programs here at MSUN. The majority of these are in my college, the College of Technical Sciences. And I talk about the alignment. Most of these, or many of these, are aligned with our secondary programs. We have created great pathways for young people to be able to move through these. They are tied to our Perkins funding, so we're very fortunate to do that. But I'm going to talk a little bit about flexibility in our programs and what many of our students do, and that's dealing with stackable credentials and creating this pathways of where they may want to go. The flexibility of our programs allowing them to go anywhere in Montana and work in the industry because of some of the skills that they're able to attain. I want to talk about what I believe is a model for success for us here, what we do with our current technical education and our programs, what works, what you saw on Tuesday night, maybe a culmination of some of that. But I also want to shout out to our other career tech programs, our 2-year programs around the state. We've got some great things going on here, and as I've traveled around the state of Montana and visit our other 2-year programs, there's many, many programs just like we have here that need the same shout out. They're doing great things across Montana. So the support that we need from industry partners, from you all here as well, resources to continue these great programs is going to be crucial as we move forward. The more, there goes my slides, hopefully they'll come back here. There we go. I've been reading a lot of articles. There was an article in CNN. Fox had an article and is talking a lot about many of our students, and they're starting to exit from some of our 4-year programs, and they're looking at many of these 2-year options that are out there. And I think it's going to be crucial as we move forward to invest in these 2-year programs to make sure that we have resources and we have the pathways that are necessary to bring that 40% that we've talked about that we're not meeting. That's my audience. I want to look at that 40% of students who aren't going anywhere out there, getting them on that pathway and getting them into these 2-year programs and then advancing them to the 4-year programs that we have across Montana. I think that's going to be crucial. So I want to talk just briefly about some of these steps I believe are models for success for us. Active industry partnerships, and you saw that, those of you who are joining us Tuesday night saw that with a couple of our industry partners who join us from our technicians program, whether it be diesel, auto, or ag mechanic technician programs. I've got partnerships like this in 9 other department areas. We hold advisory committee meetings with members from across the state and nation in all of our CTE programs. So all those areas that I showed you, we have advisory boards that meet, and they're very active with us. We're always looking for new ideas. We're expanding our curriculum now. The most recent in our agriculture and in actually agriculture, engineering, and our technicians programs, we're looking at precision technology, integrated systems, and precision agriculture and precision technology, and how we can advance that curriculum and bring that into our curriculum. We rely on our advisory board members to guide us and moving forward with some of the new things that industry is doing, and they need young people to be able to grasp. So we're moving forward with that. They help us recruit students now. You heard that on Tuesday evening, where we have industry nights with our industry partners across the state of Montana. And that's a true partnership when they said, yes, come with us. We're walking with our, not only do we do it in their buildings, they come with us hand in hand to the high schools, and we go into classrooms, and some of my faculty have grabbed the industry partners, and they went into automotive classrooms, and they talked to them about automotive degrees and diesel degrees and other things that they can do. So we appreciate our partners for doing that. Donations, partners in CTE donate a lot of great things. The latest example, one of our civil engineering tech advisory board members, he's works for a company out of Texas, and he lives in St. Louis, and he's really into GPS and GIS, and he said, I'm working with a company called Ike GPS, and they want to donate to Northern series of Ike GPS units that actually we're able to take, and they've got a laser on it, and you put it up to a pole, and you can actually it'll calculate and measure the load poles will have, and there's millions of poles across the United States that need to be replaced, and they can do all these calculations, and we need young people that have that experience in GPS and GIS and civil engineering tech, and we want to invest this equipment to Northern, and we're going to come up this summer in July, and we're going to help train your faculty how to use it, and that'll be part of what we're going to do moving forward. That's the type of partnerships we're looking for, and I don't believe we can move forward in career and technical education without partnerships like this. Industry stepping up and saying, we're going to invest, and we're going to help you do that. So they co-op our students. We talked a lot about that. We've got co-ops or internships in all of our program areas. So, and we're continuing to enhance that. In fact, one of the last areas that wasn't, departments that I had that wasn't requiring a co-op were actually, based on our advisory board comments, we're going to move our schedule of classes around, and we are going to be implementing a required co-op, and that'll be in our business program as well. So there'll be required co-ops in all of our areas. So they offer scholarships, tuition reimbursement. That's a great thing now. I was told by our industry, especially in our technician training areas, if parents and students come to visit your campus and they're worried about how they can afford to go to school, I was told by our industry to tell them, please do not worry about how you're going to pay for your education. We will find a way to pay for your education industry. And many of our industry partners right now, started with a few, and then more and more and more are doing this to be competitive, but they're offering complete tuition reimbursement if those students will come to work for their companies. So that's just great partnerships. So I want to talk a little bit about student pathway exploration, what we do with dual enrollment or Techno Expo. We're expanding dual enrollment. We've been doing it for quite some time in welding and a career and tech education. We've got a wonderful welding program. I hope you have a chance to come and visit what we do with welding and machining, etc. But we're expanding that. We've put some online, our technical drafting class is now online, and we have students from high schools that can get into drafting. We're moving our CAD, Intro to CAD, online for high schools to participate in as well. We worked with Dutton Brady over directly west of here, I guess that is, pretty much from where we are now. And they had a situation a year or so ago, it was during COVID, where their ag teacher had passed away and they needed to offer some ag classes. And so we put some classes online we were doing during COVID, and they were able to participate in welding and ag classes until they were able to get a teacher there. And it really opened our eyes up to what we can do in our agriculture area. A lot of our intro classes, intro to plants and intro to animals and so forth, that we could offer to high schools who may not be able to have that expertise in high school, or there's just so many things that need to be taught. Can we offer some things here to allow their teachers to branch out more into their expertise? So I think that's some great things that we can do with that. Creating those pathways is really crucial. Techno Expo was mentioned, that we do this on campus. We invite employers We invite schools. We have over 300 high school students, freshmen through senior, that come to our campus. We stand right alongside our employers with all their equipment and all the great technology and gadgets, and students get to feel it, experience it. It's great to see them get a excavator up there, and they'll or a backhoe. They'll lift up the back of it with a bucket, and they'll actually have to move the bucket around and knock a tennis ball off of a cone without knocking the cone over. And you should see the smile on these students' face that they're actually able to operate. Scott, I think, was one who wanted to operate the equipment. We wouldn't let you do that, but we do let high school students do it. So we put high school students in a tractor and turn the GPS on and allow them the tractor, without them driving it, to go a pathway that's been predetermined. So some cool things that they get to do. But this is pathway exploration for students, and we need to create more of that, and we need to drive that down even to our middle schools so they can understand the high-tech, high-skill, high-paid opportunities that are available in career and technical education that we can offer. So those are some great things that we can do. Not all of our programs may lead to degrees. I will get more into workforce development as well, but I believe we have an opportunity, and we modeled this past spring by offering workforce development electrical and plumbing classes in Billings West for pre-apprenticeship high school students that want to become apprentices. May never come up here, but they're going to start work. They're starting to work with companies down in the Billings area, and they get a head start on that apprenticeship coursework that we're offering through our Accelerated Apprenticeship program right now. So those are some exciting things that we're able to do as well. Lastly, I want to talk about stackable credentials, and I think that's really important. I'm going to use the word flexibility that we're allowing people now through stackable credentials, whether they get a major, a minor, and certificate. There's many other certifications. I'm going to use agriculture as an example. I do want to talk about our ag program and the flexibility of our ag program, but students in an ag program will take a class on pest management, and we're preparing them for their final to take the Certified Pest Applicator's license and have that license when they're done, just from that one class, which is an excellent certification that they need if they're going to work in the ag industry. So those, another example in agriculture, Bayer has come up with a certification for animal science. And we can actually work in our Intro to Animal Science class to get that certification from Bayer through as a stackable credential within agriculture. I'm going to use one of our graduates. She was our student body president, Riley Mortensen, as an example. Came into our program getting a 2-year ag tech degree. Our ag tech degree is so flexible. We have 5 to 6 classes within that just 2-year degree that you can choose a pathway. So if you want to get more into business, you can take classes in the business area. If you want to get more into animal science or range management, you can take more classes there. So it's quite flexible. Some folks will want to go into precision agriculture, some into business, some into mechanics. They can take more of the mechanics. So we allow that to happen. So Riley comes in. She gets a 2-year degree in ag tech. She had these certifications I'm talking about as well. She ended up getting some business classes that go with it, and she thought, well, I'm so far along with these business classes, I might as well get a business administration degree. She did, a 4-year degree. And then I got all the ag as well, so she got an ag operations technology degree. And she did all that in 4 years, and then she said, I'm going to come back for a 5th year and get a welding certificate. And so she finished her welding certificate and is out working now for Bear Paw Development, but she's got such a breadth of background in agriculture. She can go anywhere in agriculture. And in Montana, our agriculture industry is so broad. What you can do, we don't train specific people to be a plant scientist or a soil scientist or whatever. We give them the breadth here, that ag operations technology and the flexibility. So we're very proud of our 2-year ag tech program. We encourage our students to go through that 4-year ag operations technology. But what do you want to do and where do you want to go? Get into a co-op or an internship, find out what really you're passionate about, and let us finish tailoring that to you. And I think in career tech, we need to be flexible. We need to create as much flexibility as we can to offer those students those opportunities. I want to talk briefly about workforce development. I got a few more minutes here. I want to talk about our Accelerated Apprenticeship Education program. And we've offered, by the way, we've offered apprenticeship education for years here for the non-union apprentices across the state of Montana. And the way it was offered in the past was we created a curriculum, a correspondence curriculum where students, young apprentices, I should say, have to complete 7,500 to 8,000 hours, depending on whether you're a plumber or an electrician. And then you had to take this coursework. We were disappointed with the completion rate of the coursework, and thus apprentices weren't getting their journeyman's license. They would get their 7,500 hours, but they were so busy with life and working all day, and they just weren't able to use that model of correspondence on their own to get through that. So thanks to the governor's GEAR grant, we applied for a model that we thought would work, and it was called an accelerated apprenticeship. And we worked with our faculty to create didactic lectures, online, hands-on lectures and demonstrations by faculty that these apprentices could, on their own time, could watch and learn. And then they came every week for 4 hours for 10 weeks in a cohort with others, and we did hands-on work to bring what they were watching online to life and walk them through that. And in 10 weeks, we were able to get those students to pass 2 of their courses. We had less than a 40, I think it was a 38% passing rate with the old way students who were taking this apprenticeship. We finished 3 semesters, 2 springs and a fall. We have a 90% completion rate on those courses. And the original folks that start will finish up this fall. And I have no doubt that we'll get them past the coursework, and all they'll have to do now is complete their hours to get that journeyman license that they're doing. We've also surveyed those students. We have an 89% satisfaction rate. And all those folks are telling others this is the way to get through this. It is, yes, it's a little bit more expensive than just getting a book and doing it on your own, but it's so worth it because we're getting the folks through their education, and so they can get past that journeyman. And I just wanted to say we're also applying for some rapid funding to offer journeyman test prep, because passing the journeyman's exam is not easy, and we believe if we can bring those cohorts back together and do some extensive training, that we can get them through the journeyman's test one time, and now we're getting them into the workforce much quicker. So that's one of our next initiatives that we want to move forward with. I did want to highlight that apprenticeship pathway with high schools. We've been approached by some other high schools as well. One over, I do believe it was Conrad, I just was told by my apprenticeship director, has contacted them about doing a pre-apprenticeship pathway, some classes as well that they will use as they work on their apprenticeship over there in that area. So that's some exciting things. I do want to talk about another area that we're helping in workforce development, and that is with our high school industrial technology and ag teachers that are out there. I just got some recent statistics from Mike Houghton from OPI, and evidently we have 21 new openings right now for our shop teachers in industrial technology, 21 right at this moment. I think I was told that there's a couple of graduates from MSU. We had a graduate last year. I don't have a graduate this year, so two high school or 2 college graduates, traditional students I'll call them. We can't fill these positions. So we are hiring in Montana teachers who may have a background, that maybe they're an auto teacher or whatever, and we'll bring them in on a class 4, or sometimes we get them class 5 licenses, but they don't have that breadth of industrial technology skills training that they need. So a year ago, we started a 45 credit endorsement in industrial technology for these class 4 and class 5 teachers. I've got 15 teachers right now that are taking classes with us, and in 3 years, they will have their endorsement. We'll provide all that the breadth of industrial technology skills for those educators. Last summer, we offered welding classes and electrical classes for electricians for them. This summer, we're building, I think we're building a little house. They're going to do construction work, and we're doing machining classes. They did some drafting classes online and career tech ed classes online. So I have faculty working with these teachers out there. So anything that we can do to help these teachers that don't have the licensure that they want, that we can provide, or just upskill. Many teachers have been out there a long time, and with new technology, they can come in the summer. And when they do these classes, they're only here 2 weeks on campus for extensive lab training, and the rest of the time they're back in their own home communities. We believe it's a model, being flexible, offering a model where we don't have to disrupt their lives, but they can get that education that they need. So that's some of the things that we're doing in workforce development. I need to mention some other areas just briefly. We've been approached by a company called Quanta, and they're looking for our students as technicians, whether they're 2-year or 4-year students, but they're also talking to us, could you offer us workforce training as well? Like, let's say we have people that need skill set in hydraulics particularly. Yes, we can offer hydraulics training. So we are talking to companies about how we can create specific training opportunities for people with backgrounds that maybe they need that skill set. Another option that I'm working right now with the Rapid Training grant with the funds is working with one of our instructors to offer air conditioning, heating and cooling training on big rigs and autos and equipment, because that's one area that we move in as technicians that most technicians probably feel the least prepared for, and they've asked if we can put that together, and I've got faculty that are going to be working on training to do things like that. So those are some great, I think, examples of how we can get more into workforce training, dealing with our industry partners that are out there. I want to close by talking about some future directions that I see for us here at Northern. Our short-term academic needs that we're moving forward. I mentioned these are all industry-driven as we talk to them. Moving forward with our precision technology. Our precision technology is not just precision agriculture. I'm dealing with ag, auto, in the diesel construction area and our engineering area. Even in our plumbing and electrical, they're saying the precision technology is permeating all of our industries, and how can we create options and programs, classes specifically that students can take that would enhance those degree areas. So we're looking at moving forward with minors, or anyway, starting with classes and moving into minors, and that may lead us elsewhere as we talk about our curriculum in the future. The Chancellor mentioned our equine center, and moving forward with a minor and equine management here in our community really would meet the needs of our ranching and our equine needs in northern Montana. So we're moving forward with that, and as rapidly as we possibly can, try to collect data on what's happening in our meats industry, looking at meat science and what we need for processing, meat processing plant. Can that be met, and where might we be able to step in and help and assist in that area? I want to have us expand our distance delivery through our apprenticeship education. We should build upon the successes that we're experiencing currently with our accelerated apprenticeship education. But I mentioned just briefly that we do work in the areas of electrical and plumbing, but we also actually have curriculum going on in 25 other areas in apprenticeship. I think it's time that we take a look at how we can look at apprenticeship education, expanding it beyond just electrical and plumbing, which are required through that we have to do here in Montana, but other areas that we might be able to take some of these successes and expand upon those in meeting the needs in workforce development. So in proposing that, I'm proposing, and I've talked with my provost about this as well, and our chancellor, of the establishment of a Center for Workforce Development to further advance our apprenticeship education, but also for short-term training and technical science and skills trades training throughout the state of Montana. I think you'll agree when you see our facilities, you'll see our equipment, you see our industry that we currently work with. It just makes sense that we make that investment to invest in workforce development and specific training throughout Montana, and I think we're poised to do that. I appreciate your time that you've given me today and to share about career and technical education. And never forget, career and technical education, it is the foundation to our system. Thank you.
Excellent.
Questions?
Thank you, Dean Kruger. Yes, is there any questions from any of the board members or committee members? Okay, not seeing anyone. Thank you for the really
Thank you.
informative, instructive presentation. Certainly, I think what I gleaned from the presentation is how Montana State University Northern is very, very responsive to the needs of industry and responsive to the needs of the state of Montana, and are willing to try anything, right, to make these connections and collaborations happen. So thank you, Dean Kruger, for your leadership and your presentation this morning. I will turn it over now to Director Treaster for our next topic on dual enrollment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. Happy to give you just a quick overview of dual enrollment in the Montana University system. And I'm actually going to talk quite a bit about dual enrollment career and technical education, which I think is a perfect way to follow up what Dean Kruger was talking about. So what is dual enrollment? So when we talk about dual enrollment, there's a few different models that we're talking about in Montana. So the first is concurrent enrollment. This is where our students are taking dual enrollment credits, so they're taking credit that count toward their high school diploma, as well as earning some college credit with a qualified instructor in their high school. And these high school instructors work with our faculty. They teach the college curriculum in their high school, and so the student is earning both high school credit and college credit at the same time. We also have some students that don't necessarily need the high school credit. Maybe they're ahead in their studies and they've completed their credit for high school, and they're interested in just taking early college. These are taught by our college faculty. Sometimes our students are on campus, sometimes they take them online, and sometimes those are for college credit only. In some cases, our students are traveling to the college or they're taking online credit, and they still count toward their high school credit as well. So we're seeing students take advantage of a few different models, and they're benefiting from any of these models that they're engaging in. We've had a lot of success with our 1-2 free college, our dual credit program. We've seen a lot of growth over the past few years, and so we're really starting to focus on a few different areas with dual enrollment. So one is quality. We want to ensure that those students, especially those that are taking those credits on their at their high school, are receiving a true college experience. So making sure that they are taking the college curriculum while they're engaging on their high school. We're also trying to make sure that our dual enrollment courses are available to students across the state, regardless of where they're located. So our students in our rural high schools typically have not had as many opportunities as some of our high school students that are in these larger towns in Montana. And so we're looking at alternative delivery models to make sure that those students have the same opportunities that those other students in more populated places have. And we're also focusing on delivering career and technical education through dual enrollment. We've been fairly consistent with career and technical education being about 1/3 of the dual enrollment that our students are taking, and we'd like to just see that grow as dual enrollment overall grows. So how much dual enrollment is CTE? So I said we're consistently around that. About 1/3 of our dual enrollment is career and technical education. You can see the growth that we've experienced overall, and so we have seen increase in credits being taken, but we're not seeing an increase in the percentage that's dual enrollment. So, that is CTE. So we're just trying to focus on ways that we can deliver that more. This is actually my last slide I'm going to show you. This is the CTE dual enrollment that we're seeing by career cluster. So you can see the amount of credits that students are taking in these different career clusters. This is kind of interesting when you break it down geographically, just seeing where students are taking what, but it's just a nice picture of what exactly our students are engaging in. This is the last slide that I'll talk about data with you. I do want to highlight a couple of really exciting things that some of our colleges are doing with their partner high schools, and just some of the ways that our dual enrollment students are really benefiting from career and technical education dual enrollment. So one is our partners at Great Falls College. They offer their entire welding certificate as dual enrollment. So we're seeing a lot of students that are graduating with their high school diploma, and they're also graduating with a welding certification at the same time. They can go on for additional post-secondary education, or they can go right into the workforce and they have a certification that makes them employable. We're also seeing at a couple of different sites in Montana, we're seeing a program called Job Site Ready. This is an intensive where our students are taking some online curriculum on their own time, and then they're engaging in some hours of on-site work, hands-on work, and they're graduating with this micro-credential. It's Job Site Ready, JSR. It's recognized by folks in construction all around the state, and it gives our students, and we've seen adult students engage in this as well. It's not just high school students. We've seen adult students and traditional college-age students engage in JSR. When they get this micro-credential, they are ready to be employed on a job site. They get their basic safety skills and their basic construction skills, and they're ready to be employed. And so that's been a really exciting new model that I think that we can explore some other ways to expand other programs. We are also seeing at Missoula College, we have a couple of really exciting health credentials that are modeled specifically for high school students. One of them is a certified medical assisting program. So we have students that are in high school, again, graduating with their high school diploma, also graduating with their medical assisting certification at the same time. So they can go right into work, or they could build up on that credential, and they could explore more post-secondary opportunities in the healthcare field. We also have a basic healthcare occupation micro-credential that our high school students are taking, and it's similar to JSR, where it's just a very basic introduction to healthcare programs, and it gets those students ready to explore other options that they might be interested in. Another really exciting area, and I'll hand it off to Dr. McLean, is we're starting to see dual enrollment credits that are related to education. And so we're trying to get students engaged. We see in a lot of towns, sometimes it's a hospital and a school. Those are our big employers. And we have opportunities where we can get our students engaged in work-based learning, and other opportunities where they can career explore in our hospitals. So we should be doing that in our schools as well. And Dr. McLean will talk a little bit about Grow Your Own and how dual enrollment is a part of that too.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the board, and members of the committee. Great to be with you this morning. I do have the great privilege to visit with you this morning about the Montana Grow Your Own Educator program, and I think it's so appropriate that we are right here in Havre, where the conversation at the post-secondary level around educator recruitment and retention challenges really got started at this very meeting in 2016. And I am really pleased that we have some of the folks who were at the table on that very day in the room this morning with us. And I will tell you that these folks that I will introduce momentarily to you and their teams, as well as the team here at this campus, have answered the call of the Board of Regents, have answered the call of our campuses, and have answered the call of the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education when it came to educator recruitment and retention efforts across the state. And without fail, they were at the table and led the way on meaningful and important conversations that would help us as a state get to a place where we can say we have addressed this issue most effectively. And I would just like to take a minute, because we have a couple of them in the room, and make introductions. We have Brad Moore, who was at the time in 2016 the superintendent down the road at Big Sandy, and he came to the table and he spoke to the board, and he, among others, said we are at crisis levels when it comes to our ability to recruit and retain appropriately licensed teachers. And he is right there on the end, and he is joined by Craig Mueller, another school leader in the Havre Public School System. And by the way, Brad Moore has since moved into the Havre Public School System and continues to be a leader along with Craig in this conversation. We're also joined at this table by Mandy Nitz, who is a leader in the Montana Grow Your Own Educator program down at the high school and delivering those dual enrollment credits along with so many of her colleagues in the hallways there. And then project director for the TOPS program, the Teachers of Promise program. Here we have Dr. Curtis Smeby. And I just want to signal one more time my heartfelt appreciation to all of the folks in the Havre Public Schools, the folks along the High Line in eastern Montana who helped us as a system elevate the conversation about educator recruitment and retention to the level that it needed to be elevated, and I don't think that we've stopped talking about it since. And as a result, in the 2021 legislative session, we saw a bill that was supported by this committee and sponsored by Representative Running Wolf, and that was House Bill 403. It passed, it went out to the governor's desk last May, and we had 3 proposals for funding on our desks in the Office of the Commissioner over the course of the summer. We looked at those and we analyzed them and saw them as promising efforts to begin to deliver teachers in the communities where students lived and in the schools where they were already matriculating as students. Each of our partnering institutions rolled out their programs over the course of last fall, and that was the update that I presented to you at the Board of Regents meeting at the University of Montana in our meeting there. Since that time, they've rolled out each of their programs successfully, and I reported to the State Tribal Relations Committee that on January 18th, that each of the 3 of our Grow Your Own Educator programs had started coursework with their students in the seats, taking credits so that they could be another generation of teachers in their community. So what I would like to do now is go over where each of those projects are, and then I would like to share a short video with you, and then I'll pass it over to my colleague, Joe Teal. So first off, I'll circle back to the promising partnership that we have here at Montana State University Northern, and that is the Teachers of Promise Pathway, and this is the flyer that you have sitting on each of your desks this morning. That is a partnership between Montana State University Northern, the Havre Public Schools, and a number of schools along the High Line. Additionally, it is a partnership with the Great Falls College team and Dean Erdman and Dr. Leanne Frost and their faculty and staff at that campus. And what we have there is a promising 2+2 that will continue to allow students to matriculate from the Great Falls Public Schools into the Havre Montana State University Northern program where they can finish their programming. But Curtis's programs, right here through the TOPS program, they started in January of this year, and he has 15 students in the pipeline to become teachers in the Havre Public Schools. One of the things that was required as a result of House Bill 403 was that each of the students who participated in a Grow Your Own Educator program had work-based learning experience. Curtis built that into his promising proposal already, but since then that conversation has continued to evolve in a very meaningful way. And right at this time, Mr. Moore and his team, they are interviewing students who are part of the TOP program to be paraprofessionals who get paid next year during the school day to serve students and to gain meaningful experience. Additionally, when I was visiting with Mr. Moore about this promising model, I said, well, would you be interested in taking it a step further and then working with Curtis and finding out a way to work with the superintendent and her team to see if sooner rather than later we can get these students into classrooms up in Havre through a residency model. And as always, they say we are willing partners in that conversation. So what you're seeing here is truly a model of promise, as it says in its title. Right now, Curtis and the folks are working on recruiting students. They've been all along the High Line, and they spent some time in Great Falls. And I will tell you that I participated in their meetings with students in Great Falls, and they had over 30 students between the 2 high schools. And so we're hoping that in addition to the 15 that we have in the TOPS cohort this year, that we'll add another 30 as a part of that 2+2 with Great Falls College next year, in addition to any new students that might also sign on through the Montana State University Northern Grow Your Own program next year. The next grantee was Stone Child College just down the road, and the project director is Bonnie Rosette, and she partners with Rocky Boy and Box Elder Public Schools, and they had 8 students in their project this year, and I met with Bonnie and the two superintendents from both of those schools on Monday, and they are working on plans for recruitment of students for next year's program. They're also taking a look at their paraprofessionals that they have in both of those schools, and we looked at a list of 10 of those folks who have some credits. Some might even have an associate's degree, but they're interested in an education degree, and they don't have enough credits for it yet. So they're figuring out how they can develop individualized education plans to get those students on the pathway so that they too can be a part of this Grow Your Own Educator conversation. And then finally, we worked with the Blackfeet Community College to roll out their Grow Your Own Educator program, and you'll see them momentarily featured in the video. And they have 12 students right now in their high school dual enrollment courses as a partnership with the Browning Public Schools. And I had the great privilege of meeting a number of them on Monday evening, where we recognized them with a certificate for their investment in playing a role in meeting the needs of schools across the state and in their community when it comes to making sure that they have an appropriately licensed teacher. Dee Lynn Hoyt is the project director over in Browning, and she right now is continuing to work on recruitment of her students as well. And I indicated to you in the fall that one of the things I think was so promising about her proposal was the way that she would integrate the teachers that have been prepared through the partnership with the University of Montana Western. Many of those folks are in the classrooms there in Browning and in Hart Butte, and what she plans to do and has a schedule in the works for, she plans to have students who are a part of her project go into those classrooms of those students who are graduates of her other project. And so that is moving along nicely, and our programs are in a very good place. And so if you add up 15 at MSU Northern, you take the 8 that we have down at Stonechild, and you take the 12 that we have at Blackfeet Community College, you've got 35 students. We're hoping to bring on 30 next year at least with the Great Falls Partnership, and then we know that we're going to add students up here at Montana State University Northern, down the road at Stonechild, and then at Browning. And so we're hoping we get pretty darn close to 100 students who will be have the opportunity at Montana Grow Your Own Educator program efforts. And as Jackie indicated, what they have an opportunity to do through this model is matriculate through dual enrollment. So with that, as you know, they reduce cost to degree and they reduce time to degree. And we can, through the conversation that the superintendent is leading with residencies, get these students into the classroom sooner than later. And I think that that's exactly what these school administrators will tell you they need. Now, one of the things that we have been doing is making sure that we're out and we're talking about this effort, because we hope that the legislature will see fit to make sure that we have the ability to grow it across the state. We believe, and in fact, we're going to have the data to show that it's a promising model. And so what I'd like to do is share with you a video that we have created. We have a 5-minute version and a 3-minute version, but we're going to give you the 3-minute version this morning. And I hope that you will enjoy it and then ask me some questions later on. So will you please cue up the video?
My name is Angela McLean, and I am the director for the Montana Grow Your Own Educator project. We know that most educators take jobs within 20 miles of where they live. That's why a Montana Grow Your Own Educator effort makes sense. The Montana Grow Your Own Educator project is a direct result of a first-time state legislative appropriation aimed at preparing high school students to study to be teachers, to take jobs in the communities where they live.
I'm Jed Wendland. I'm a senior at Havre High School.
I'm Jenna McNeil. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Sunnyside.
This is my first year. I started this program in the education class of the first semester.
I think having you in the classroom has really opened your eyes to not just the glamorous side of teaching, you've also learned the connections with children and how important that is to teaching. It's not just standing up and trying to get kids to learn something. You've learned through this process on how to connect and how it's not just education, it's the socio-emotional side of it as well. There's a lot more to teaching than you just learn in the classroom. And
I think like coming to the classroom every day and being in there, I've actually grown connections with the kids because they look forward to me coming every day.
They do. They're super excited when Jade walks in.
I think coming into this program is I'll have a lot more experience going into college because I get a college credit for it, and I'll have a lot more confidence and already know that I really want to do teaching.
My name is Leo Bird. I'm a teacher here at Browning High School. I've been here for 24 years teaching, and I'm part of the Native Early Education Teach program. I believe the NET program is very beneficial for our students here at Browning High School. It's giving them opening their world up to our community college that is here. The role models that they become from taking these courses, so you can see the difference in their whole thought process compared to the normal high school student.
My name is Brock Tessman. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Higher Education for the Montana University System. Communities can grow their own generation of educators who can then teach the next generation. And we think that's the most valuable thing about the Grow Your Own program. So excited to see some of the outcomes moving forward already, and really hopeful that the Grow Your Own program becomes part of Montana's statewide educator prep landscape, and that we can see future cohorts of Grow Your Own scholars move their way through the system in coming years.
So, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the board, and members of the committee, that last slide shows you where students can now participate as a result of this first-time legislative appropriation in Grow Your Own Educator programs. And we want to thank you and thank the Montana Legislature and Governor Gianforte for their investment, because we think that this is a promising, innovative model that will help school districts like Havre, like Rocky Boy, like Browning, and Box Elder meet their recruitment and retention needs now and in the years to come. Thank you so much.
Good morning, members of the committee. I don't know why I agreed to go after Dr. McLean in that video. But I'll do my best. I think actually Dr. McLean sets up this presentation pretty well, as does Dean Kruger and Chancellor Kegel. I think there's a big theme here about partnerships between the university system and industry and schools. My goal today really is to talk about one other aspect of how the university system is partnering. And that's a partnership between the scientific innovation that happens in labs and classrooms around the university system, and all sorts of new high-tech business and innovation that's choosing to site and grow in Montana. And that's a really, really important development, both for our system and for the state overall, in terms of the jobs that are available to our graduates, the economic activity that's happening here, the tax base that's happening here. And we have some ideas on how to address some risks to continued growth of that, and also to maximize the benefits, maximize the ways that our university system is supporting it. Dr. Tessman started with an important figure for you all, which is that MUS research activity now stands at $330 million a year. What he didn't mention is how we've gotten there, and that's a really unique story. Starting 5 years ago, we had a one-time allocation of funding from the legislature to seed and support some of our most promising areas in our scientific enterprises in our universities. And since then, we have grown more than $120 million in annual federal grants coming into our system. And just to emphasize that, that is faculty from around the state going out and applying for grants from federal government, from industry, competing with the best minds around the nation, and recently out-competing, making us, we think, at the next time that the federal statistics come out, the fastest growing university research enterprise in the country. What that means, it certainly means additional ways that our campuses are supported in being able to hire faculty. It certainly means more hands-on experiences for our students being able to get into labs and work on cutting-edge science. It means new types of innovations that benefit Montana. We saw this certainly during the pandemic, more than 200,000 tests conducted through our university labs. We see it each year through Montana State University's College of Agriculture that develops wheat varieties and other crop varieties that are designed for this state, this environment, our weather. And importantly, it means that we have the workforce and the ideas being developed here that make us a more attractive place for new types of business and industry to grow in state. And that happens in a variety of ways. It happens, importantly, directly. Graduate students, professors coming up with ideas and deciding that's an idea that has a company that can be built. It's not just useful from the basic science level, it's useful from the applied science level. And that's meant that 62 new companies have spun out of the MUS research enterprise since 2006. It also happens in some indirect ways, in terms of those companies anchoring an ecosystem, those labs anchoring an ecosystem that makes it so that more people want to start this type of work in Montana. I think you've all heard a little bit of this on the optics and photonics side, starting more than a decade, 2 decades ago with Optech, the Optical Technology Center, with the Spectrum Lab, growing to more than 24 firms, and growing to educational pathways that lead to good jobs at the 2 years level with a photonics technology associates program, all the way up to the PhD level. Something that we haven't talked about enough is the clusters that are developing across Montana in biotechnology, whether it's in Hamilton with GlaxoSmithKline or here and in Great Falls, work between the Applied Fuels Center at MSU Northern and companies like Montana Renewables to develop new types of biofuels and new applications for biofuels that use Montana crops as their feed source. And in aggregate, that is a really, really big deal. It's $2.9 billion in annual revenue at last estimate for 2021. And what this slide is showing is really a step change in the interest that's creating nationally in terms of the capital that's available in Montana to companies. 1995 to 2015, 20 years, we averaged $7 million a year in venture capital investment in Montana. The last 5 years, we've averaged more than $100 million per year in venture capital investment in Montana. And the final thing that I'll emphasize is what that means for the students in the university system. It means that for a lot of our science and technology graduates in particular, there are now job opportunities in Montana that means that they can stay here and do the work that they want to do at a very good wage, supporting their community and supporting their state and doing interesting cutting-edge work. Now, looking forward, there's some big opportunities on the horizon. We heard a federal update yesterday in terms of new interest in the federal government and spurring innovation in rural states and rural areas that haven't had a lot of this activity before. There are also some risks. There are some risks in terms of, things I think we've all been talking about: cost of living, cost of housing, cost of facilities and space. What we hear from a lot of these firms is, we want to be here. We need the space and the equipment and the expertise and the workforce to be able to grow here and justify being here. And so a recent effort that we've launched is a roundtable between the university system, between other parts of state government, between industry leaders, between our high-tech industry alliance, our bioscience alliance, our photonics industry alliance, to strategize around all of this, to think, if we want to address these risks, if we want to take advantage of these opportunities, what do we need to do to work together? And most importantly, what can your universities, your university system do for you in terms of leveraging our people, our facilities, our unique equipment to make it so that more innovative businesses site and grow in Montana? And in your packets, there's a few ideas that we've developed over the past couple of years in that regard that we're going to further develop with this group to have a shared strategy and hopefully bring some thoughts to you at the legislative session. Overall, this is an important area for our state. it's a real point of pride for the university system, and it means that there's all sorts of new exciting opportunities for our students. And we're happy to bring it forward and answer any questions that you have on this presentation or for my colleagues' presentations.
Well, thank you, Director Teal and Dr. McLean and Director Treaster. Certainly now is the time, folks, to pose any questions to our esteemed panelists, provide any comments or questions, to have some dialogue between our committee and the Board of Regents. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions from anyone at the table. Don't be shy. Yes. Representative Rexton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We discussed yesterday in our committee just the lack of housing for some of our candidates. And we've visited places, Drummond is such a place where a lot of those teachers live, 30, 40, 50 miles away and commute every single day. We need this like right now, and I'm wondering, what are we doing together as a group right now to address this when some of our very good candidates cannot find housing because the salary is low enough where they can't compete for the housing in the marketplace?
Representative Rexton, that's a really good point. It's something that we actually covered yesterday as a top issue that we're facing in Montana within education and outside of education. And it's, the conversation that we had was taking sort of the anecdotes that we hear from our community members and complementing that with real-time data. And we had a conversation yesterday about what the data is saying about the particular housing constraints and what that means for our economy. I don't know if the commissioner, if you have anything you wanted to add about sort of how we're sort of grappling with that within the university system.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the committee, members of the board, absolutely. Long conversation about it yesterday, and we recognize I think where you started and where you got, there's a housing issue for sure, housing crisis, but there's also sort of a compensation crisis. And I think we really looked at the data to suggest to us sort of where we go and where we're at in terms of vacancy rates, turnover rates. Both of those are concerning numbers. Unemployment in Montana, which is a good thing by many perspectives, 2.6%, I think was the number, 11.3 million jobs unfilled across the country. I mean, those are just a mixed match that we can't sustain, and it's certainly putting pressure on K-12 teachers, on university staff, faculty, and beyond. And I think it's something that we really need to take a deep look at. And we started with the data yesterday that certainly validates the anecdotes that we've been hearing, validates the concerns that the campuses are expressing to us, the challenges that they're facing recruiting and retaining people, almost a doubling of our turnover rate from sort of normal steady state, which is incredibly problematic. We spend lots of time recruiting, teaching, or onboarding those individuals, the costs associated with that only to lose other individuals and start that cycle all over again is really sort of a challenging process for right now. So that for us is, just a huge priority. I appreciate the question because this will have to be conversations we have moving through the summer with the governor's budget office, with our board of regents, and then ultimately with you all at the legislative level. We have to address those concerns, but I honestly think the answer to many of those will be, yes, some fundamental changes with how we do business, how efficient we can be, what other things we can bring to the table in terms of benefits and an overall package that is enticing for individuals to come work for us, but there will also be a part of it that is based around compensation, and that's going to be a challenging conversation we all need to have in the next session so we can keep Montana individuals working and working in our university system and working in our K-12 systems and able to afford housing that is within 100 miles of where they want to work and live and teach. Regent Powell.
Commissioner, thank you. I think Representative, good question. On one of the answers is that we all, everyone in this room, is going to have to do their part to support more housing, and that might be on our side. That might look like more housing for students at our different campuses, and how we can get support through the legislature for that, because every bit of housing has the knock-on effect of it may be housing for students, but that will help with teachers and things. More specifically to being actionable in your community, I live in Big Sky, which has a much more dramatic housing problem. A single bedroom is $1,200 a night, $1,200 a month, and so for teachers, we've moved beyond impossible to farcical in terms of our ability to keep them in the community. But there are creative ideas. We did partner with Habitat for Humanity and create housing on our campus in a cost-effective manner. And had support from that, and so we can take this offline. I can talk to you about that, but it was a very successful solution that we look at it in Big Sky as chipping away at the iceberg. The problem never goes away, but you have to kind of keep tackling it in small concrete steps.
Senator Solomon, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I was kind of curious as I listened to these things. One of the things that came up, there's going to be less campus time. A lot of these are associate degrees, 2 degrees, opportunities for internships. That means they won't be on campus. So I was curious if the university's units have to change their business plan because students aren't going to be on campus for as many years, and at sometimes less times during those years, so that campuses can still have the students on there, but yet it's a business plan because you make money when, or you can afford to have them there, however you want to say it, if they're living there, they're eating there, they're within the dorms, et cetera. Is that going to be a change that we need to take a look at in the future?
Why am I doing all the talking? No, happy to weigh in, Senator Solomon. Yes is the answer, but it's not as simple as it seems, because what we all agree is we need to do more. We need to service more students. We need to talk about and attract that 40% that Dean Kruger talked about. We, in order to meet Montana's workforce needs in particular, because we're a very aging state, we've got a lot of people retiring out, we've got some inbound migration that's helping that, but overall, we just need more of sort of everything in Montana right now. That sort of unfilled jobs thing is really indicative of the struggles. So we need to get more students into post-secondary education. So while, yes, the business model changes, we may not be expanding campuses at the same rate we otherwise would have. I think what we learned during the pandemic is that campus environment, the campus experience is incredibly important to students, that most of our students, I mean, there are online platforms that do a good job, Western Governors, others, but the majority of the students that come to the MUS want a campus-based experience. They want to take some courses online. They absolutely want to do internships, co-ops, other things to really enhance their ability to learn and ultimately achieve those degrees. So the model is absolutely changing. I think, of all things, the pandemic will have some outwash that has been good, positive, reinforcing ways for us to deliver in different modalities. But we also know that the old will have a place in this conversation as well, that campus experience where students are engaging with campus at a different level, but still very involved. So I think it will change the infrastructure. I think it will change delivery. We're seeing much more IT expansion, all of those things to meet the current needs. And overall, we from Havre to every institution within the MUS need to see growth in order to meet workforce needs, not for the sake of growth, which some people get a little lost in, but growth in order to meet Montana's workforce needs. That truly is a sharp challenge for us. So I think you'll see all boats sort of rise around that. I think the business model is changing, how we share services. We don't, technology will help us where we don't have to reinvent the wheel at every institution. We can share. We're using Quotely to share courses. We're opening up a conversation we had yesterday to where we hope to one day have a catalog that is inclusive of all instruction across the MUS. So a student in Bozeman can take a course from Missoula, can take a course from Havre, from anywhere that it's available in the real time that they need it in order to meet those degrees. So we'll change that model substantially. And in doing so, I think we can grow that pipeline, grow the pool, and ultimately grow CTE and other skilled degrees that will meet Montana's workforce needs.
Yeah, Senator O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for having us. Really appreciate the opportunity to work together, and thrilled to see what's happening with the Grow Your Own, because I think that we are in crisis. We're seeing our vacancies for teachers as a very, very serious issue. So kudos to Dr. McLean. But I do want to shift gears a little bit to talk about research. And there's a conflict of interest because my husband is one of those people who has helped escalate the numbers. But with the MReady that took place a handful of years ago, I think it's important to recognize and understand, and I'm speaking mostly to my colleagues now because I think the Regents understand this better because you deal with it more often, but like with this Montana Innovative Alliance, that's fabulous, and it is an economic driver to have research build upon with that tech transfer concept. It also brings substantial salaries for attraction for our faculty members so that we can have more programs of excellence within the university system, and it brings opportunities for graduate assistantships for our master's degree students and undergraduate students, and it builds upon each other and it snowballs. And so I think that oftentimes people think of research. In fact, we were talking about this at the Ag Research Center yesterday. It's like so many times we think about research with two beakers going like this back and forth with some scientist in a white jacket. And that's all good and fine, and we're not excluding that, but there are all of these other elements that are critical for our growth. And so kudos to you, and nice work to all of us, all of you, for doing that good work. But I think it's important for us to see that the attraction is critical to help grow the Montana University system for our students. Thank you.
President Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator O'Brien. I agree completely, and I think that, and it really was a follow-up. Primarily, I raised my hand and wanted to cede to Senator O'Brien. It was a follow-up on Senator Solomon's question, and I agree wholeheartedly with the commissioner. The thing I might also add to that is, it's great to think about education of our youth right in high school, right out of high school. I think the model, the change in the model, the expansion of the model that is happening and has to happen is for our university system to think about our responsibility to educate and provide retraining opportunities to people at all stages of their careers. And I look at our freshmen that show up on the Oval each year. If you read the studies, a large number of those students, by the time they're 30, will be working in jobs that don't yet exist today. So we can train them really well. They get a degree at 22, but a lot of those skills that they're going to need, they change pretty quickly. The average half-life of technical skills today is about 5 years. So you go through a great program, you get great technical skills. 5 years from now, half of them are obsolete. And so one of the things that your university system, I think, is doing a great job is broadening our aperture, so to speak, in terms of the people that we have an obligation and an opportunity to serve with educational opportunities. And so I'm grateful for the legislature's support, the governor's support for the Accelerate Montana program that we've launched over the past couple of years, and providing those short-term retraining, reskilling, upskilling programs. Those are helping employers, but they're also helping people transition careers. The economy changes quickly. We should welcome that. You know, we talk about innovation. One of the things that happens with innovation is, you know, new businesses are created, other businesses go out of business, and people need retraining. And I think that's an important aspect for our state to consider. And I just really appreciate the focus of this committee and over the past session and in coming sessions on programs like Accelerate Montana to help with the educational needs of people at different stages of their careers and lifetimes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everybody. Yes, thank you for having us. These field trips that the Education Committee gets to take are absolutely the best, as field trips should be. But yeah, they are great. And I just want to see, with all these programs, and it used to be a part of the curriculum, and I hope it is at least part of it, or will be added, is how to teach young people to advocate for themselves. Because, as you said, things change quickly, and they need to advocate that if you're going to change this, you can't just fire me. We're at a many decades high in the number of people who support the right of workers to organize and to have a say, to be advocates and to have a say in their workplace environment. And I think that's very, very important that we continue to help students understand how important it is to speak up, advocate for their rights, and their ability to organize in the workplace, because that's when workers have a greater voice, that's when our economy grows the fastest and the best and the strongest. So yeah, a little biased there, but it really is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Funk, and I thank you all for the rich discussion this morning. I know we're just about hitting the time where we have to take a quick break. I think that just the way Representative Funk kind of concluded the discussion about students advocating for themselves. Look, our students are changing. Their needs are changing. How they want to learn is changing. And I think this morning, if there's anything that you heard, is that the university system is changing to meet those specific needs. We're doing apprenticeship programs. We're doing work-based learning. We're growing our own with high school students of our teachers. To your question, Senator Solomon, about the business model, I think the stat is 87% of students are getting online credits. In the Montana University system. 5 to 50% of credits are earned online across the Montana University system. So we're listening to the needs and the interests and the ways of learning of our students, and we're finding adaptive ways to meet exactly what President Bonder said, meet the demands of our state in real time. And I think we're willing to take a number of risks and do a number of different pilot programs to try to address the changing needs, the changing economy, both in the state of Montana and the needs for America's economy and the global economy. So I step away from this discussion with a significant amount of pride between the interest that the committee is bringing and all the hard work that is happening both at K-12 and across the Montana University system to position our young people for really, really great, meaningful careers staying in the state of Montana. So I think with that, Chair McClafferty, unless you have any additional remarks.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everybody for being here today and letting us join you on your conversation. And it really is an honor for all of us to continue working with you to enhance the education system for our students here in Montana. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair McClafferty, and thank you all to the Education Interim Committee for joining us. And one last plug, thank you for the staff at the Montana University System to help put this on. Pad, Laura, Bethany for supporting your committee as well. Thank you. That being said, we are going to take a little extended break, about a 20-minute break to rearrange the space to continue the Regents meeting. We will be back at 10:25. All right, welcome back to the meeting. If our chair of ARSA is ready to rumble, let's jump right in. Chair Buchanan.
Chair Lozar, members of the board, thank you and good morning. That was an invigorating meeting this morning, identifying plenty of joint policy opportunities to collaborate, and excited to link in a couple of those opportunities throughout today's agenda. I did just want to take a second to reiterate comments shared by most of us yesterday about the time and place that we meet. You know, just a couple of weeks or a week for many campuses from wrapping up another academic year. Just incredible. And I'm thanking each of the members of the Board of Regents that attended the commencements. And as I think about this committee, I think on our committee meeting, Brock, I saw 37 different windows on our Zoom call, and academic officers and faculty representatives from all of our institutions that I know were celebrating the closure and the completion of another academic year. And I personally got to have the opportunity to sit as the platform committee and watch a keynote address by our colleague, Regent Amy Sexton, that was not only remarkable in that her story in itself is such a success story that I know she's so proud of, but as I watched all of her classmates walk across the stage and receive their diplomas and stop and say to her, thank you, good luck to you, congratulations to you, the heartfelt comments about being a part of something, the heartfelt comments about sharing in your success as an undergraduate student, as a master's student, was just incredible. If you get a chance, I understand there's some digital copies of that speech out there. It is inspiring. Her colleagues were super excited about it. And I think as we speak to some of the items on today's agenda, there's something else to share in success as we look at this commencement season. As Commissioner Christian pointed out, nearly 9,000 credentials, certificates, degrees were conferred. And not only for the individuals that received that degree and the position they put themselves in for their personal success, their family success, and their own community's success. You look at where we're delivering credentials. We just saw some data at the dual credit level, which is certainly not as credential oriented, but about a decade ago, we said we need to elevate what we're doing in the health sciences. We have a healthcare challenge, and we saw 10% growth in what we're doing at the dual credit level just in the last 2 bienniums. From a credential perspective, if you get a chance to check out some dashboards related to this year's conference of credentials, the standout in long-term growth over the last decade is what we're delivering in the healthcare space, both in the associate's degree, certificate level, and of course the baccalaureate degree. So we're partnering to meet these workforce issues. And Director McLean, during your presentation this morning, and grow our own, these are the kind of long game strategies that we need to remind ourselves can't be compromised as we also address some of the crucial contemporary issues that pop up. We do need to stick to that focus of workforce development. These are things that we can play a big part in, and it's not going to be without challenges. This is going to be a heavy conversation heading into this legislative session. The needs are not only contemporary and big, but they're very important that we stay focused on these long-term strategies. So congrats to our campuses, to our system for partnering with the state and moving the dial. We have a long way to go. We have certainly not solved the healthcare issue. the education issue, but these are long-term challenges that I feel we're representing demonstrable movement in. So congrats to everybody that had a role in getting these students across that finish line. And again, Amy, it was just such a pleasure to see how your role on campus and your summary of your experience really inspired and launched people. It was very heartwarming. Congratulations to you. Look at where we are on the agenda. Towards the end of the meeting, we really cramped it down. So very few action items, and with that, let's jump right into it. Request to plan proposals. Deputy Commissioner Tessman, please help us launch into our one action item of the day.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. We do have a pretty streamlined set of request to plan proposals. These proposals have kind of been through a number of steps already in the development process, and you mentioned our ARSA committee call. We've had a chance to vet the proposals among the Chief Academic Officers group, and today I'll ask the three Chief Academic Officers from the proposing campus to come and just give a really brief summary of each of the items. And the first item comes from Montana State University Billings, as you can see in AAS and medical coding and insurance billing. So Provost Eskandari.
Thank you. Chair Buchanan, members of the Board of Regents, Deputy Commissioner Tessman, thank you very much for having me here today. It's a privilege to be talking in support of our request to plan an Associate of Applied Science in Medical Coding and Insurance Billing. This program is designed to provide students with technical skills with all aspects of medical coding, insurance, billing, and the revenue cycle. So this is everything from data entry, analysis of health records, translation of medical documents into billable codes. So these are procedures, diagnoses, treatments, supplies, the billing process itself, and also dealing with denials and appeals if necessary. So it's the full spectrum of the revenue cycle. We're really excited about this program. This program is in full alignment with our workforce development mission at City College. There's been a lot of conversations about workforce development here and stackable credentials. This program is also stackable, and I'll get into that really quickly. The program is in direct response to student demand, to employer demands, and also highly endorsed by the advisory committee that we have for our already existing CAS program, Certificate of Applied Science in Medical Coding and Insurance Billing. Members of this advisory board are local employers, healthcare employers in Billings who often employ our graduates of CAS program. The CAS program, if I may, it's a fully online program. It has very healthy demand. It's got an enrollment of about 35 to 40 students a semester. And in fact, it's seen about an 11% growth in the last 5 years. And that growth tracks really well with national projections for these specialists, with projections between 2020 to 2030 of about a 10% increase for these jobs. As I mentioned, the program is stackable, so we have our CAS. The newly proposed AAS program is stackable, sits on top of this, so a student has an opportunity to finish the CAS, go on into the workforce, and when desired, come back and complete the AAS. We hear from our advisory board and employers that this provides, the AAS will provide a huge advantage to graduates in terms of employability, but also the salary that they'll be offered. I want to mention again the program, our CAS is fully online. Our AAS, the proposed program, will also be fully online. In fact, for our CAS, about 30 to 40% of the students are from regions from outside of beyond 90 miles from Billings. And we think that online modality has really helped with the growth of the program. Before I finish, I simply want to acknowledge the hard work that the faculty in this program has put into developing this. Melissa Bergerson, of course, the chair of the program, Vern Gagnon, and our City College Dean, Vicki Trier. I want to acknowledge the work that they've done in being responsive to student demand, to employer needs, but also working with the advisory committee to bring this program forward. Also, Melissa Bergerson, as she developed this proposal, she did heavy consultation with various colleagues around the state, with individuals at Flathead Valley Community College, Gallatin College, Great Falls College, Missoula College, and also Salish Kootenai College. And all of those colleagues have been supportive of this program. So with that, I'll end, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Eskandar, for the introduction. Any discussion or questions from members of the committee or members of the board? Anybody else interested in weighing in? Great. Thanks so much for the hard work and putting this forth.
Thank you.
Deputy Commissioner Tessman.
Thanks, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Our next item comes from Montana Tech, Certificate of Applied Science, Associate of Applied Science in Mining Technology. Provost Gammon, thanks.
Thanks, Chair Buchanan and Regents. Good morning. This is something of a little bit of a different twist on things at Montana Tech, and this truly is a request to plan because we're still in the midst of figuring it all out. This is a partnership, and I'll back up a minute. This is another in the theme of workforce development, and our Dean Vandeveer at Highlands College has really been quite successful in forging partnerships with a number of industries and businesses throughout the state. And this is one of our first examples that we're launching that's new. Sandfire America, that's running the Black Butte Copper Mining Enterprise, and Seabain Stillwater, both have workforce needs for upskilling their employees with mining technology things. They've approached us to partner with us and actually are funding some FTE for course development and things. So this partnership is targeted at these employees of these companies, and we're working through that. They've hired an instructional designer to help us design curriculum for their people. There's some internal things that are kind of interesting about this. Our mining engineering department is going to partner with the two-year college as well with curricular design issues and things like that to deliver these courses. So it's a certificate and an associate of science. One of the other interesting things, even through this partnership, we maintain control and ownership of all the intellectual property that comes out of this, the course development, the modules, and those sorts of things. So we're really excited about this. It's something new for Highlands College. I know other campuses have done this, and we see there's a lot of potential here. We're going to learn a lot from this process, and our industry partners are really, really excited about engaging with us in this. So I'll end there.
Thank you, Provost Gammon. Any questions from members of the committee? Members of the board? Again, well put forth proposal. Thank you very much for the hard work. Deputy Commissioner Tessman, our third item for a request to plan.
Okay, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, our last item today from the University of Montana Western. I think Provost Johnny McLean is going to come up and introduce the proposal for a Center for Experiential Education. And Johnny, just half a second, giving some context to this proposal. We've had for a number of years faculty development centers, teaching and learning centers on some of our larger campuses, in particular on the flagships. We have well-established centers with their own identity. In the last couple of years, we've seen at Montana Tech, we've seen at MSU Billings, now at Western, and on other campuses as well, the emergence of teaching and learning centers that are really tailored to the strengths and identity of each institution. And I think it's an opportunity, of course, for that institution. I want to flag for the board that our office, my team, will probably try to bring together representatives from those centers maybe once a year or so we can kind of have some cross-fertilization, some sharing of best practices along the way. And so really excited to see this Center for Experiential Education come up based on everything we know about Western. It seems like absolutely the right fit for what you do there. And Provost McLean, excited to hear you describe it.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Tessman, and thank you, Chair and the board. So we are so excited at Montana Western to present this request to plan. I started, I think, as some of you may know, in January, and the faculty had already been creating this plan. It's a faculty-driven effort, and it really addresses one of the points in our mission about continual improvement. So this Center for Experiential Education is really meant to provide some administrative structure around continual improvement for faculty. You probably are aware that a lot of faculty don't get a lot of preparation in their doctoral programs in pedagogy. And so across the nation, I think a lot of universities create these kinds of centers for faculty development. And at Montana Western, we have such a unique experiential education model with our block system, Experience One model, that faculty join our institutions, and even if they do have experience teaching at other institutions, they enter ours and recognize that they have to completely rethink how they're going to approach their classroom and their educational experiences. And so the hope is that we can create a center, and like Provost Gannon, this is truly a request to plan. We haven't worked out all the details yet, but we hope that we can create a center that can provide that kind of support for probably especially our incoming faculty, but really faculty across the institution, so that we can really live up to the promise of Experience One by providing that peer mentorship and across the institution support. And like Deputy Commissioner Tessman said, we're really excited to collaborate with the other centers across the state, and I think there's a lot of potential for collaboration and for growth. So anyway, I'd love to take any questions.
Provost McLean, thanks much for the presentation. Any questions or input from board members? Regent Bao.
No, I'd just like to compliment this program. I think the way Western has moved forward on experiential learning, and I know this project had a long gestation period, and to get it across the finish line, I think is a tribute to the focus and dedication that Western brought to this, and I'm excited to see how it develops. Thank you.
Thank you.
Regent Sexton, please.
Thank you, Chair Buchanan. I just want to also express my support and congratulations for coming up with this center and supporting it. I looked into becoming a professor at one point in all of the different paths that I've considered, and one of the things I was told is that not a lot of professors are taught how to teach. And so I really think this is a fantastic idea. I'm glad to see so many campuses are implementing it, and I think it's going to pay a lot of dividends moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just make one more comment. This is definitely not my idea. This is really a faculty-driven approach, and I think that's something to be proud of for the institution as well. So thank you.
I've got a thought too, but first of all, Regent Sexton, we won't rule out a return to higher ed in your pathway. Many of us would welcome it for sure. You mentioned the collaborative nature of the intent of this proposal, and in our committee call, that surfaced as not only had examples of campuses that you're already working with, but inspired other members of this committee to kind of generate more buzz in that conversation. I met the lady who runs it here on this campus on our event Tuesday night, and I'm glad that you corralled that as an emphasis point from us. We are a system, and we don't own the idea of any sort of development. We're a part of that universe, and the more we can build this out to export it to colleagues across the system, I think the more valuable it'll be. And to Regent Bao's point, the entire Experiential One and the experiential learning process, I'm eager to learn more about it, and I'm sure there's many across the system. So we'll look forward to updates and especially examples around how successful we've been with that collaboration. Any final thoughts or questions from members of the board? Excellent, thanks very, very much. Great presentation. Deputy Commissioner Tessman, I think that concludes a review of our action items, which would move us into information items. So I'll pass to you information item A, the academic approval memorandum. Thank you.
Yeah, how about that? We're moving quickly, which is good. We've got a few information items here. This academic approval memo comes in front of you at every meeting. And like a lot of things that happen in the system, you kind of see the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot that goes on beneath the surface. And I just remind the board that every month the chief academic officers get together and we run through the proposal of smaller certificates, putting certain programs in a moratorium, things that have been delegated either to the campuses for their own decision-making process or to our office. And I think this This memo is 213 pages, and for good reason. There's a lot of information in there. We will flag items along the way if we think that there's disagreement among the campuses or reason for concern. There are not any red flags in this memo, but just know it's there for you to look at, and I'm certainly happy to follow up and answer questions that come up after the meeting if you have them.
Any questions or inquiries on that item? A lot of work in there. It's interesting to review. You're right. It's dynamic, the list of actions being proposed. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Chair, the next item, the board has seen this item before. About 9 months ago, we introduced a couple of policy revisions related to our admissions approach, and I think it's kind of part of a general overhaul or internal audit of some of our policies. But you've seen this before. It's back in front of you as another information item. We can bring it as an action item in July or September, depending on how much interest or engagement there is on the policy shift. Two parts to this shift. The first one, I think, is incredibly straightforward, and that is that we will treat incoming high school students who've taken dual enrollment credit not as transfer students, but as first-time freshmen. And that's something the campuses do already, but it was a little bit ambiguous in our policy, and we're just cleaning that up. The second item, I think, is also straightforward, but it has been the result of a lot of engagement with campus registrars, faculty, CAOs, enrollment management, student leadership. And it has to do with the way in which students are treated in our policy if they join one of our four-year campuses without scoring high enough on math and writing in order to be entered without sort of provisional status. And right now, for those students, if they're admitted provisionally, after 3 semesters or 32 credits, they have to have cleared those benchmarks in math and writing, and if not, there's an expulsion process that kicks in. And in fact, that typically does not happen on our campuses, and I think we're happy about that. The point is the policy is not really one that we've seen actively engaged for some years now, and we're trying to get the policy in line with what's happening on campuses now and ultimately what we'd like to see, which is instead of a kind of punitive policy to the students, one that says, here are the things you can expect our campuses to do in order to support you if you come in with math and writing needs. So still have some things to finalize before the action item itself comes in front of you, but I just wanted to flag it for you as an information item.
Any questions or observations from members of the board? Chair Lozar.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Buchanan. I certainly want to have a more discussion and sort of build this out. Certainly there's a lot of elements to the actual redlining of the current policy. This is probably something I wouldn't have supported years ago, but just knowing all of the work that we've done to really support our incoming students who maybe are not at the proficiency levels with math and writing, that they now have those different pathways, and we have the infrastructure in place to really support those students. We can look line by line by line, but I just want to show my general support that I think this is the right approach, an approach that is going to be meeting our students where they're at. So I appreciate this sort of leadership in thinking this through.
Great comments, and thank you. Please, Regent Rogers.
Thank you. Thanks for that historical perspective. That's a good point. I'm excited about ensuring that the dual enrollment students, not ensuring, but the proposal to have dual enrollment students not be transfer applicants. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it goes back to our discussion yesterday about the transfer initiative that we have to smooth those pathways and make it easier. I think I was talking to Joe about it, and it might not exist now, but I'm just so curious about, how students are transferring throughout the system, if there are sticky points, and if, not necessarily as part of this policy, but just as part of our transfer pathway work generally, if we can dig into that a little bit deeper and be able to get a little bit more data that can help to really guide and improve that process too.
Thanks. And Mr. Chair, Regent Rogers, I think as luck would have it, chatted with Joe also about this subject yesterday. I think one thing we can commit to, in Regent Bao, I think you might have brought this up on the mic yesterday. what we can do is put together, I think it's called a Sankey diagram, and you can actually really visualize the flow between campuses. So we really get our arms around which students are moving from which campuses to which other campuses, 2-year to 2-year, 2 to 4, reverse transfer, as kind of an initial sketch. And then I also took your point about metrics for success to heart. And I think we have to really think carefully about how we want to define a successful transfer. But in my mind, if we're really reducing friction associated with transfer, we should be able to say, all things held equal in terms of sticking with the same major and life circumstances, et cetera. But all things being held equal, the time to degree, 4-year degree completion for a transfer student should essentially match the time to degree for a student who started and finished the same institution. Now, we may not get all the way to even, but I think the goal should be to narrow that gap as much as possible. And to me, if I had to name a one metric for success in terms of our transfer project, that'd probably be the first one to start with.
Yeah, any follow-up thoughts? Excellent point. Thank you, Regent Rogers. Great. It's just unaccustomed to having so few items in our agenda. Which takes us to a strategic priorities update. As you've seen throughout the course of the last 2 days, a few items that have fallen onto the broader agenda for very good reason have been strategic priorities of this committee since we started this academic year, mental health being one of them. We've also got robust efforts in a couple of other areas, and I think it's so important to again remind ourselves that even above contemporary strategic priorities, we've got long-term systemic priorities, and whether it be these challenges we're feeling at the moment with housing and wages, or things like how do we find future investments for Montana 10, every one of these items has to fall within one of these 4 sectors. So I think it's very appropriate to periodically review those and get an update as to the breadth of activities that we're only going to touch on, but it's a great look into many of the efforts that we're doing across the system. So with that, Deputy Commissioner Tessman, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And you're right, we do have a couple items that were moved to other parts of the meeting. I think that was really smart, and I think things have worked out. We have just a couple items here. And you'll notice on the screen, we have these new circles. And the circles do reflect the priorities that the ARSA committee set at the beginning of the academic year. We have the MUS strategic plan, which I think for really good reason stays relatively static over time. But within that, there's the success agenda, which changes a little more frequently. And then I think this set of priorities probably be adjusted at least a little bit every year. And so this year, those are the 4 priorities that we focused on. I don't think any of that's a surprise to the committee. As we have these updates now at the board meetings, we'll kind of highlight how each update connects to one or more of those 4 priorities. And today, we have 2 items related to our strategic priorities most directly. Both of them happen to be connected to federally funded programs. The first presentation is going to be from our director of the Montana Gear Up program on first-year services. The second presentation is going to be around the Educational Opportunity Center grant that we've recently built out through the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Ed. Before Travis and Director Anderson and Director Aribo get up there, I'm always pushing Travis and Jeannie and Jackie Treaster as well to just be relentless in explaining how these federal programs fit seamlessly with what we're trying to do. These are not separate programs, they're not siloed off. First Year Services is a bridge program, basically, that helps high school students from Gear Up schools transition to their first year of college. We know that's one of the major attrition points, and it's amazing to have this grant offer personnel, financial support to students during that transition period. I mean, it's just so central to what we do. The other one, and I'm not going to talk long about it, I don't steal anybody's thunder, but Jeannie Aribo, the Educational Opportunity Center. We talk about adult learners, some college no degree crowd. 100,000 plus in Montana. This is a grant, first of its kind, housed at our office. This designed specifically to reach those students and bring them back into higher education. So just wanted to say that they're really very much at the center of everything we believe in the ARSA committee and at OCHI. Without further ado, and sorry, Travis, if I went on for too long, but Director Anderson is going to talk a little bit more about first-year services and Gear Up.
Good morning, Chair Buchanan, members of the Board of Regents, Deputy Commissioner Tessman. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning and visit about first-year services that we've been doing with Montana Gear Up. Now, one of the things that we've done a great job of with Montana Gear Up is supporting students in those 7 through 12 settings across our 16 high schools and 18 districts, or 18 schools in 16 districts here in Montana. We're very excited to talk about the expansion of those services and supports to that first year on campus. We launched our first year service initiative actually in fall of 2020. So as we all kind of go back to the fall semester of 2020, there was no shortage of challenges in implementing a new program across the state of Montana. I will say that with the great support that we've had with leadership at the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education, as well as the amazing leadership that we've had across the 5 campuses that we've partnered with, Montana Gear Up's first year services have been very successful. So a little bit about the Montana Gear Up first year service initiative. So any student from a Montana Gear Up school, partner school, 7-12 setting would qualify. So once they finish and matriculate onto one of our partner campuses, these services would just follow them. Now, one of the things that makes this unique is the outreach actually happens while the student's still in high school and even middle school. We have first year service coordinators on our 5 partner campuses that are working with the schools on everything from education career fairs and things like that. So they're working with the schools. Also, when our partner schools conduct campus visits, those first year service coordinators are there to greet them, to visit with those students, and again, to start working to dovetail those services and make kind of a friendly face on those campuses as our students come from very small communities and they move onto a campus that's even larger than the size of their county that they came from, right? So to have that friendly face on campus and have that person while they're still in high school has definitely been a positive. Also, increased support during the transition to campus. Now, that's been fantastic. Our first year service coordinators are working with campus personnel to maybe have specialized orientation processes or allow students to move in a day early, working with housing, things like that, so that students from our small communities can come onto a large campus, maybe move into dorms a day early. Also, checking in with them regularly as they transition to campus, putting them in touch with campus services, making students aware of everything from parking, housing, meal plans, all of those types of things to help students navigate that process has definitely been a very, very beneficial support for our students as they come from our small Gear Up schools and move on to our campuses. Really the biggest piece is that bridge. So everything from, and some of these things have, the services have been very personal in nature, and I'm just going to share a couple very quick anecdotes that speak to the power of first year services. The first one being one of our students was getting ready to register in one of our schools, and because of an issue that happened with the transcript that was from their home high school, there was a bar for registering for classes for the next semester, and this student was actually almost very frustrated going through those processes, and our first year service coordinator on that campus actually worked with the Department of Admissions and the graduating high school of that student to get the transcript process ironed out and allow that student to register for the next semester of classes. I know that seems like a very small thing, but for a student that was maybe already having some frustrations with that, to have that advocate on campus was very, very, very powerful. The other thing that I'd like to share with the Board of Regents, as Montana Gear Up Director, I've been doing site visits across our Gear Up schools this last spring. And I was actually in Troy, Montana at the high school, and there was a great banner from the they were on UM, and the UM first year service coordinator, Mindy May, had this big banner built up for the students in Troy as they visited campus and signed it off. And it was something that they took so much pride in that this banner was actually hanging in the senior hallway. And a lot of students talked about what a great visit that was, but also how excited they were to meet the first year service coordinator at UM. And again, start making that friendly face and put that person on campus that's there to support them as well. So I think those are two very, very powerful examples of how this has been very beneficial to students. We're looking forward to expansion of these services. So in fiscal year 21, we had 106 students in this. Fiscal year 22, we had 98, and we're looking forward to fiscal year 23 and continuing the growth of these services. Now, as I talk about these services, none of them happen without the dedication and hard work of our 5 first-year service coordinators across our campuses. They are truly amazing. They are doing a fantastic job, and I appreciate the efforts that each and every one of them are bringing. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Thanks, Travis. Great update. Any questions or inquiries related to this? It seems to me the common theme is when we put our people on campuses, kids get excited about higher ed, so keep that up. Thanks so much for the report. Okay, so next item.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we have Director Jeannie Aribo here, talk about the Educational Opportunity Center and supporting resident student access through supports for adult learners. Thanks for being here, Jeannie.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Buchanan, Regents, and Deputy Commissioner Tessman. Thank you for the opportunity to provide you a little bit of an update from September when we announced that we got the Education Opportunity Center grant to where we're at now and how we're tying into resident and student access. So you can see through our purpose, mission, and vision that really we're focused on supporting our clients and their desires to increase their economic mobility and help meet workforce needs that we've heard a lot about today that are needed in Montana. And this is done primarily by increasing their educational opportunity and access. We're in 11 counties through primarily southwestern Montana, and we've been actively recruiting students since February and have the ambitious goal of meeting the 850 students by the end of August. And we're currently also working on a public information video campaign designed to inform our communities about education and training opportunities available called This is College. And our goal with that is to kind of change that narrative of what we mean when we say college. Certificate programs, 2-year programs, everything that's involved when you're looking at different educational opportunities. But this is what I want to spend the bulk of the time talking about. When we talk resident student access, and we talk about that 40% that did not go on to post-secondary education after high school, or those who did make the attempt to start some post-secondary education but ended up stopping out, these are the clients that we're working with. And you have before you 3 very different examples of the type of clients that we are working with. Client A is a 19-year-old female. She did not finish high school, but she wants to go back and finish her high set. And she's doing this through her local adult basic education program. Where we step in is she wants to be an EMT. And so we're working with her on those opportunities available. But she's running into an issue in that she's 19. She can't be an independent student yet. And her parents do not want to help with the FAFSA. So we're having to look at other ways to help fund her education and help her be able to complete this dream so she doesn't have to defer it until she's 24, 25 years of age. Then you see we have a very different client. Client B has been in the food and service industry for the past 20 years and has decided at the age of 51 that he really wants to reevaluate what he wants to be when he grows up. So we're working with him on talking about how can we look at prior learning assessment and experience, how that might help look at these new fields he's interested in. And really, he is place-bound and looking at the opportunities that are available in his local community to go on to these new careers that he wants to explore. And then we also have Client C, a 25-year-old single mother to 2 small boys. She's a first-generation college student. She wants to provide economic mobility and be able to provide a better life for her children. So she's working with our program on different opportunities and knowing that education is one of the best ways to make that happen. And so working with her right now on is a certificate, a 2-year program, or a 4-year program, gonna help meet her needs the best. And there's no way we can make this happen without our partnerships. So being able to do that financial literacy with our community partnerships, knowing that there's areas and gaps that we can't fill, and going to our local resources and connecting our clients to them. That instance I give with our client A, who has no ability to use the FAFSA, we've connected her to local resources where they have the money to pay for tuition for short-term credentialing. So we can't pay for that, but we can connect her to someone who can. And then, sorry, I'm fighting a cold here. And so if I'm squeaking, I'm sorry. So they're gonna help pay for her tuition as we help her go through the admissions process. So it's all about leveraging as many resources as possible in the communities to make that happen. And then I just put our objectives up here just to show you, as thrilling as objectives always are, they do actually connect to the priorities and that financial literacy, that admissions, that access. And that is everything that we are focused and centered around. And just as Travis pointed out with the first year services, this wouldn't be possible without our amazing teams. And again, going back to those partnerships with Missoula College Housing, Chase Anderson, so that he can meet with clients in those areas. Andy Richards being housed at Highlands College, and then Maria Lil Rose housed at Ochi, but also being able to go and spend time at the Helena College campus and be able to make those connections. Any questions?
Thanks, Jeannie. Any questions or comments? Yeah, thank you, Regent Sexton.
Thank you, Chair Buchanan. We've talked a lot about these types of students and the best ways that we can serve the students in Montana over the last couple of days, and I just think this is such a great example of the kind of work that will get more students that really need to be in college and that could really benefit from college into the university campuses. So great work, and it was really a pleasure to hear about it and see those examples of what you're doing to help these students succeed.
Thank you. We're very excited.
I would agree, Regent Sexton. Again, if you don't go, you don't get, right? Be on those campuses. Jeannie and Travis, please pass on to your teams our gratitude, and sure hope you feel better, Jeannie. Thanks for being with us today. As we move through the agenda, I am, as I've been preparing for this and learning more about Northern, it's such a source of pride when we've got the ability to partner with partners like President Chandler, who's here with us today, and this part of the state where we have a very proud statement of representing a very high concentration of tribal students. I did get a kick out of visiting with President Chandler yesterday. He is the second in his family to have been the leader of this institution. It sounds like his mother does not care for how he's redecorated his office. Or she once resided for 20-some years. But we really are grateful for your presence here today and welcome any opportunity to continue to collaborate. So as we were preparing for this, it was, again, if I'm right, it's 13% of our population on this campus is tribal, which has lent itself to be a very attractive opportunity to receive support, to create space and create culture that I think we're not only learning what's succeeding, but we know we need to continue to be making more robust. So with that, Deputy Commissioner Tessman, help us introduce the American Indian Minority Achievement item today, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Buchanan, and bring Dr. McLean to the podium to introduce our presenters. I do think you have pushed me, and I thank you for doing this, Chair Buchanan, to have these features always be square in the middle of our priorities for sure, but also, when possible, connected to the host campus. I mean, this is just a perfect kind of example of that. And I don't know, Chancellor Kegel, if the Institute will be part of the campus tour, but I was lucky enough to be able to
spend a minute or two poking my head around there, and it's just such a good example of how physical space matters, and you can understand how for students and families, the Little River Institute is really working. Thanks, Angela, for introducing the item. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tessman, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Very good to see all of you once again this morning. I am joined by Dr. Margaret Campbell, who is the Chief Diversity Officer here at Montana State University Northern, and Director Erica McEwen-Hansen, who is the Director of the Little River Institute, as well as serving as the Director of the Native American Serving Non-Tribal Institute, Department of Education grant, and you will hear from them momentarily. Ahead of that, I want to thank you, Regent Buchanan, for your continued leadership and guidance and support of elevating these important conversations about this strategic work that is happening across the Montana University system to support more American Indian students onto our campuses and to a degree on our campuses. I also want to signal my appreciation to Chancellor Kegel and Neil Moisey and all of your team for hosting the AMA Council here at the Little River Institute with these two ladies who also acted as hosts. We had an extraordinary meeting Tuesday morning from 9 until noon, and Mr. Chair, at your request last meeting, you asked us to take a look at the mission statement and the recommendations that we might bring forth later to this board, and I wanted to signal to you that that work has already begun. So we hope to bring those to you sooner rather than later. In 2015, Montana State University Northern applied for and received a Native American Serving Non-Tribal Institute grant to the Department of Education. Since that time, they have, in intentional and innovative ways, served American Indian students in a very successful way that has led to these very high numbers that were spoken about by Regent Buchanan. In 2021, Director McEwen-Hansen applied for another Nasanti grant. Right now, the Little River Institute is housed over there in the Student Union building, and it is directed by Erica. And Montana State University Northern is the only campus in the state that has this designation. To learn more about what this means and potential opportunities for other campuses across the Montana University system to embark on this opportunity, I would turn it over to Dr. Campbell and Director McEwen-Hansen.
Good morning, honored dignitaries. I'm really pleased to be here today to present you with the work that we do at Northern with regard to American Indian student achievement. My partner and I, Erica McEwen-Hansen, we've brought a total of 50 combined years of working with American Indian student achievement when we came to Northern, both through our work at tribal colleges and my work as a K-12 superintendent. I would say that we're very passionate about the work that we do. Our work exemplifies the value of departments and divisions working together for a common shared goal, and that being American Indian student achievement. Erica will present a short slideshow, and we're going to be open for questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, my dear colleague and friend and mentor, for that introduction. And thanks to all of you, the Regents and Director McLean and Deputy Commissioner Tessman for inviting us here and giving us an opportunity to share our work with the entire Montana University system and the state. So I'm going to start out by just telling you a little bit about how we've gotten here. I'm going to take us on a little bit of a journey today, trying to be brief, but 6.5 years of my life, there's a lot in there. So our first slide, just a little bit of an introduction. I came here from Ani Nakota College, and so it is good to see President Chandler there. He and I were faculty colleagues together. And prior to that, I also was faculty at Stonechild College. So I'm bringing with me my years as tribal college faculty. And President Chandler would still be stuck with me if this opportunity, and I didn't feel so strongly about moving into the Montana University system to bring elements of tribal colleges here. And so I thank Chancellor Kegel for giving me the opportunity to do this. And I also am very honored to be in this space as a non-Indigenous person. So, and be able to work with American Indian students and help increase achievement. The slide that you see, the Little River Institute logo is very special to us. And I'm just going to take a minute to describe our logo, and it will also give you some insight into our name. So this logo, as many things are at the Little River Institute, is student-driven, and it was designed by one of our native students who is a senior graphic design major here at Montana State University Northern. His name is Eduardo Velasquez, and he is from Fort Belknap. And what you see there is the convergence of both the Milk River and the Missouri River. And in this region, along the High Line, we call this region the Little River Institute region, as the Plains Indian tribes here refer to the Milk River as the Little River. And so you also see teepees and sweetgrass, and he placed the teepees there as a symbol of having always been here. And we are honoring our first people, the first people that were here, our American Indian students and their families through this program. And the picture is also very special. Many of our Sweetgrass Society, American Indian Student Organization members, as well as Little River Institute peer mentors after one of our annual teepee raisings. And we also had done an awareness walk for missing and murdered Indigenous women that day. We're going to take just a short little stop here to make sure that you know what a Nasanti is. At the AMA Council meeting that we were honored to host at the Little River Institute, my friend Dan Dergelo from SKC was going to ask if Nasanti was an Indigenous word and what tribe it came from. So he and I talked afterward, and he said, you know what, it is an Indigenous word. It means home, and it means family. So I like that. So thanks to Dan. But Nasanti's, this stands for an acronym like we all have, but Native American Serving Non-Tribal Institutions. So these are institutions that have a high percentage of American Indian undergraduate students. And we have, at Montana State University Northern, both undergrad and graduate students, our American Indian population makes up about 15%. So we are well past that threshold. There are 37 Nasantis. I'm going to draw your attention to the map. The rest of the information is in the one-pager that you'll see. But looking at the map, you can see just one little circle. That's us. We're the only Nasanti in the state of Montana. And if you look at Oklahoma, they have 16. Alaska has 6. I hope that we're going to change that number. I hope we're going to see that number be more than just 1. And I would be happy to help any institution to partner and look how they could do that. So eligibility opens in January every year. So please reach out. And we already have had some initial conversations with other campuses. There's an opportunity to do partnership awards, and only one institution has to be Nasanti, and you can partner with other institutions. Okay, so this is for the, Dr. McLean had talked about, we reapplied for a Nasanti grant. We're in our second 5-year award. And this is our logic model that we use as the basis for what we do. And I want to draw your attention to what is central to it, and that is a sense of belonging. So everything that we do at the Little River Institute is to create a sense of belonging, and we do that through our campus home, our Nasanti Indigenous word that means home and family. If you look at the outer circle, the campus community is Montana State University Northern of our medicine wheel. And the inner circle, then, our campus home is the Little River Institute for American Indian students, where we work very hard to foster an environment that fosters self-identity and culture for our American Indian students and other students on the campus of MSU Northern. Our overall and overarching goal in all that we do is also to increase retention rates and graduation completion rates of our American Indian students. And we do that with 4 activities that I'll talk about, one per slide: professional tutoring, mentoring, professional development, and our family engagement model. I just want to mention and stop for a second that this just isn't only the Little River Institute staff that do this work. We have many partners across campus that are important to the work that we do. One is sitting right next to me, Dr. Margaret Campbell, and she is in another building on campus, her office, the Diversity Center, and she is instrumental in helping to get students to us that are not only American Indian, but other minorities and all students on campus. Behind us, I just want to give a shout out to our student health counselor, Amber Spring, she can wave, and Dr. Taryn Wallen, who is our Assistant Dean of Students. They're instrumental in helping us address things, things like housing, mental health issues. I've heard that come up. We work hand in hand with other people on campuses in order to make sure that our students have all that they need. And I will go through each of our activities now. So the first that really is paramount is our professional tutoring. And what you see here is a picture that was taken at the Little River Institute. And these 2 individuals that are doing the tutoring are absolutely amazing. Alyssa Cook, who is sitting down talking to a student about a paper, is our writing, we call them pathfinders. They do more than tutoring, they help students to find their way on campus. So she has been with us since 2016, the same year that I started, and we initiated the Little River Institute. And she is implementing Indigenous pedagogy. And she also does a lot of work with students and focuses on American Indian students as English language learners. She is over at the Little River Institute today, and if you are able to stop by, you'll be able to say hello to her. Morgan Lamayesva is also an absolutely vital member to our team. She has a bachelor's degree in mathematics. She is an enrolled member of the Hopi tribe, and she is seen there tutoring an engineering student. So both Morgan and Alyssa embed in many classes, especially first 2-year classes, to establish those relationships early on, and that students feel comfortable coming to see them not when they are in need of help, but as a proactive measure. We really try hard to ensure that students look at our center as a place to go from day one. And I'd like to introduce you to Morgan. She's with us here today. She's at the back as well, waving. And here is a little bit of data. So 79%, and this data is from the year 2020 to 2021, the academic year. So we are still in a pretty high COVID year. We're very happy with this. 79% of the students, the American Indian students who receive tutoring from Morgan and Alyssa, passed the courses for which they received that tutoring in. We also have mentoring, both professional mentoring and peer mentoring. And here is another room up at the Little River Institute. This happens to be the room we held the AMA Council meeting in yesterday. And you will see one of our first Little River Institute peer mentors there mentoring other American Indian students. And a couple of those students also went on a few years later to be Little River Institute peer mentors. We're proud of that leadership model that we also have. Our professional mentoring is provided by myself as the director, our MSU Northern Chief Diversity Officer, Dr. Margaret Campbell, and our invaluable professional tutors, Morgan and Alyssa. One of the things that we've also found that is incredibly valuable is a co-advising model, and I want to take a moment to thank our faculty at MSU Northern for being willing partners with us when we are helping students to find their way. Often that means conversations with their academic advisor. And those advisors go back and forth with us and help us to find academic plan and a schedule for the semester that not only meets their academic needs, but meets their whole individual needs, family needs, and their well-being. So 45% of our American Indian students participated in this mentoring program during 2021, and 85% of those students who participated were retained. Our professional development is also very important because we pride ourselves on helping our campus to achieve a ever-growing culturally responsive environment. So that is bringing in guest speakers, having collaborative projects across campus. That's what you see these pictures of, many fun different projects. We've done so many over the last 6.5 years. The new grant, I'll just draw your attention, we are focused on the STEM fields. And so we actually are taking our STEM faculty and they are participating in an Indigenous mentoring program that is modeled after Dr. Sweeney Winchief's program at MSU. And we also implemented an Indigenous STEM Summer Institute last summer with pre-service teachers. So you can see the picture in the bottom right are also Ani Nakota College staff members, Fort Peck Community College staff members, students at both of those tribal colleges who partnered with us to finish their education degrees, as well as MSU Northern STEM faculty during that institute. I'm just going to give a really quick shout out about research. And research, we find, is a retention tool. So when our undergraduate students, our American Indian undergraduate students can participate in research with our faculty, they are very engaged and they are committed to that project and develop those relationships with our faculty. So I think that's an important point with research. So I'm always encouraging STEM faculty to do that. And finally, new this round of our grant, as well as the family education model. So Dr. Campbell was part of an implementation of a similar, that model at Fort Peck Community College when she was there. And, you know, we really talked about, you know, what were some of the things we wanted to bring forward in this new iteration of the Nasanti grant, and family just kept coming up. So we really are making very intentional efforts to include families when a student is one of ours at MSU Northern. So if the family feels comfortable, the family feels welcome, the student is more likely to stay. So some of the pictures here show some of our family activities. The larger one is actually an American Indian student orientation. You can see a child there with his mom, you can see a grandma, you can see a mom. Everyone is welcome when we have events, and even throughout the day, that is how we feel. We have an area for young children there as well. And we had a 29% participation rate among American Indian students who brought their families to interact with us at the Institute, and of those, 94% of those students were retained. So it really speaks highly to the importance of family. And finally, I'll get to our last slide. These are just a couple of the successes. I could have filled up slide upon slide upon slide, but I'm very proud of these students that are up here. Some of them have been our peer mentors. What is really fun is Mia Lamebol texted me on Monday from her job and said, "My freshmen are coming to campus for a visit." So I'm starting to have who were our Little River Institute peer mentors and students here now in professional settings. She is a middle school teacher at Box Elder. She's sending her students here. That picture of myself and Radium Wolf was the day that she brought a class of freshmen this year, because she is now an art teacher at Browning High School. And they're coming back now that we've been here 6.5 years. We're really, this is such a benefit so many times over. And so this is the fun stuff. And in the big picture, we've seen a 20% increase in fall-to-fall retention of American Indian freshmen from the pre-grant until now. We've also seen a 5.2% increase in four-year graduation rates among our American Indian students from pre-grant. So with that, I will stop talking and give it over to Margaret for a minute.
We'll be open to questions. I just wanted to comment that after spending an entire career steeped in policy, it's great to be able to be working with students. It really brings home why we're here. And oftentimes when we're in leadership, that's what's missing, is that face-to-face with students and being able to bring a student into your office that may not be feeling very confident, and to be able to feed them the confidence that they need to be able to keep going. So this has been a very rich experience for me, and hopefully for the students too. We'd be open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director McEwen-Hansen and Dr. Campbell. It's obvious your heart is where your work is, and it's awesome to see the data supporting that's yielding outcomes that are benefiting these students in this population. That's great. Any questions or comments from anybody on the board? Chair Lozar.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Buchanan. Certainly had the opportunity yesterday, snuck away during a break and got a chance to see Little River again. Super cool to see what you guys have been able to do with the space. I think last time I was there was 3 or 4 years ago, and you've really transformed the space and embedded culture and embedded family values, and created a space where people, our American Indian students, will feel comfortable and be successful. So kudos. On Tuesday, for my, as Bob Nystuen would say, in my day job, I was on a radio show addressing the lack of economic mobility in Indian country, with a focus on some of the constraints in higher education. And I was on that panel with the head of the American Indian Higher Education Consortium and the head of the American Indian College Fund. And as we really talked about, the solutions and the innovative practices that are sort of breaking down some of those systemic barriers that our American Indian students face, I found myself literally explaining Little River Institute and what you guys have been able to do here. And I think it's the track record is clear, the heart is clear in this work. I'm just so impressed. Another comment is, winning a Nasante Award is a big deal. And I think that this grant has really allowed you and allowed this campus to have this space. My one area of concern would be, how do we institutionalize the support for Little River? I think about Montana 10 and the conversations we're having on the board. It's working. We're talking about institutionalizing it. And I really want us as a board and the chancellor to be really thinking about, how do we institutionalize the support when you see 94% of students, a 94% retention rate for students who have their families involved. This is success, folks. We needed to continue to find ways to support this with resources and staff outside of the Nasante gift. So I'll just stop there, get off my soapbox. Congratulations.
Not on your soapbox at all, very appropriate. And I was making notes as we were wrapping up, and I certainly want to give Dr. Campbell a chance to respond, but the strategies are similar, right, to Montana 10, to the Hillman Scholarship. It's multiple points of connection and place and these things. I'm really glad you brought that up. It's very accurate. Regent Bow.
Chair Buchanan, Director, I guess my question would, I agree with the previous comments that it's a wonderful success, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Super important. If you prioritized your request to us as the Regents, what's the one thing you would ask us to help you expand upon this success, rather than us kind of guessing what you might need? If you had one thing on your wish list that we could help to grow your success with, what would that be?
I guess the one thing that comes to mind is to continue to support AMA, because AMA really has their finger on the pulse of what's going on with American Indian achievement, and the continued support of AMA would have an effect of supporting us throughout the MUS.
I don't know if we both would get one. That's absolutely excellent.
You
but-
definitely do.
Yeah.
You definitely do.
We've worked together a long time. I also want to piggyback on the discussion of mental health. So when we rewrote for this Nasanti grant, I had hoped that we would be able to add another counselor that would be, one of the pictures on the professional development actually was a former student of mine from over 20 years ago at Stonechild College who came here to then get her bachelor's and then her master's in counseling. Her name is Cte Baker, and she's amazing. And she presented one day her indigenous model of counseling, and there was a medicine wheel behind her. Just amazing. We really wanted to bring that on board. Amber is amazing, our counselor, but she's only one person. And so that was something that I think continuing to support mental health from your seats would be amazing and so appreciated.
Anything else?
Great
I would
question.
say that we have witnessed probably more mental health issues in the last couple of years than I have during my entire higher ed career.
Well, you can rest assured that AMA will continue to be a top priority. And just reiterating Chair Lozar's comments, this is something we can't let go of. And so keep us close to what it is it's going to take for the system to support your submissions of those grants and keep up the fantastic work. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Excellent. That draws a close to the committee. Other than during the committee call, a couple of conversations emerged that just I think formally would like to request this committee to dig in a little bit. As we know, the Education Interim Committee is meeting at the Research Institute, and at least in the time that I've been back on the board, kind of like to dig into extension again, get an update on what we're doing, what our research centers look like, and relaying kind of a common request to have some light shed on that, because I know we're robust and things are going. We'd love to get caught up on that. Any further thoughts or questions from members of the committee, members of the board? Well, that wraps it up. Thanks, everybody, for your work. Chair Lozar?
All right, thank you, Regent Buchanan. Next up on our agenda is public comment, and then we'll take some action to close out the meeting. I'd like to take a break, actually, after public comment, but at this point in time, we would entertain any public comments on any items that are not under on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the Board of Regents. Is there any public comment? All right. Welcome, and please state your name.
I'm Garrett Yeager. I'm president of ASUMW at UM Western. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to address, in talking with some of you and some other people last night and just through the week, it seemed that with our wellness center, there's a lot of concerns about the $100 student fee increase. And so I just wanted to kind of clarify some aspects of that. In that referendum that our students, we had about a 50% response of our student body, and 85% of them said they were willing to pay that fee. Sorry. 85% of them said that they were willing to pay that fee, and that is not a net $100 increase. We have dropped the fee $10.50, must have been 2 years ago, and we'll be having a $17 drop in that fee. So it'll only be a net of, I think, $72.50. And so this is something that our students are extremely passionate about and that we really need at Western. So I just urge you guys, as this moves forward and becomes an action item later in the year, to get behind with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. Welcome.
Hello, my name is also Garrett.
Welcome, Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, esteemed regents, Mr. President, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Representative of the Governor. My name is Garrett Miglin, and I'm here to recruit you. I'm a student at the law school at the University of Montana. I've been involved in Outlaws, the LGBT groups, for 2 years. I'm also involved with the Emmaus Campus Ministry, which is an open and affirming Lutheran student group based at the University of Montana. I would like to voice my strong opposition to yesterday's action item D, to name a new building at MSU after Governor Gianforte. Montana University System Policy 1004.1, Section 3E, states the board may not name or dedicate a building in honor of a statewide elected official. Governor Gianforte is a statewide elected official because he's the governor of Montana. One argument for an exception here is that the gift warrants special recognition because it is transformative. In my opinion, honoring the transformative possibilities of this new building would be better served by naming it after a transformative educator from an underrepresented community. Yesterday, we talked about the importance of gender non-traditional education. And in the same presentation, we saw that information technology is overrepresented by men. The building could be named after any number of accomplished women in Montana. For example, Mae Trumper, who beat 3 men to become the state superintendent of public instruction in 1916. The first exception under the policy applies to naming the building after Superintendent Trumper because she passed away in 1968. Naming a building after Governor Gianforte would commemorate not only his gift, but it would stand as a constant reminder of other contributions the governor has made over the course of his career. He has been a major contributor to politically active groups in Montana, such as Montana Family Foundation, the Family Research Council, and Focus on the Family. People in my community, many of whom are students at MSU, know that these groups support legislation denying their civil rights, the rights of gay and transgender community in Montana. Montana state law prohibits same-sex marriage, and the more recently enacted state law mandates discrimination against transgender athletes. These laws are supported by the Montana Family Foundation, and Governor Gianforte's foundation is a major donor to that group. A monument to Governor Gianforte will be a commemoration to these legislative priorities as much as it would be a commemoration of his donation to MSU. I urge the board to abide by the wisdom of the MSM-US policy and not dedicate the building to the divisive politician, Governor Gianforte. Thank you for your time, and thank you again for your service on the board.
Thank you, Garrett. Is there any additional public comment? Is there any additional public comment? While others are thinking about it, just a reminder that you can also submit your written public comment to jcasanovas@montana.edu. Is there any additional public comment? Excellent. All right. Before we take action, I'd like to take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at noon. All right. I think we're going to bring the meeting back to order. We just have a few more items left. Make sure all the board members are here. All right, we're going to transition to taking action on the items that that have come out of our 3 committees. We have a number of different action items. We are going to start with the 2-year and community college committee. I will entertain a motion to approve the only action item A, for 2-year. It's a request to revise our PLA policy.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Sexton. Is there any discussion or questions from members of the board? Is there any discussions or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to the Budget Admin and Audit Committee. We have quite a few items here. We're going to start with, I will entertain a motion to approve the lengthy consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Rogers. Is there any discussion or corrections from the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, we have action items A through H. I will entertain a motion to approve action item A. Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I will entertain a motion to approve action item B, tuition rates for Dawson Community College.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Buchanan. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is action item C. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Regent Buchanan. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We'll move on to action item D. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Bao. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Yes, Regent Rogers.
Thank you, Chair Lozar. I just want to take a moment to share two thoughts on this item that weren't discussed yesterday, so I thought it merited discussion. First, I wanted to ensure that we acknowledge the public comment that we received on this issue and to extend gratitude to MSU for the public listening session that they ran. I was able to attend that session in person and wanted to note that we did receive some written public comment as well, which all regents received in advance of our meeting this week, as well as the transcript of the listening session. Second, in these public comments, there was a theme that I found of a little bit of confusion around our board policy. So I just wanted to clarify that our policy currently does include an exception for transformative gifts. That term has been essentially undefined to a certain extent to date. And I will be supporting this item because I believe it sets a very high bar for our policy and gives a little bit more definition to that term of transformative. Certainly from the dollar figure space, but also for the future-focused degrees and the interdisciplinary focus that will help to position our system and students to be successful in the jobs of tomorrow. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Regent Rogers. Any other comments? I do have a comment on this item. First and foremost, absolutely grateful for the gift and the very sizable gift from Governor Gianforte and his family. Certainly, he's got a long philanthropic track record of supporting MSU since they moved to Montana. I appreciated, Waded, I appreciated your comments yesterday when I asked the question about why is this transformative, and I think the background on that question is I think that's a question we should be asking every time we have the opportunity to name a building. So I appreciate your commentary and as well as the two colleagues that you had come up to the podium. You know, the naming of public buildings is intended to be done in perpetuity, which I think is particularly special. And because this building will be named in perpetuity, My personal preference is that we wait to name the building until the governor's out of office. Really, that's the sort of the principle behind this board changing our naming policy a handful of years ago. So I won't be supporting this item simply based on the timing of the decision. So, is there any other comments or corrections? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Lozar. I want to acknowledge the students that shared their opinions with myself and with the rest of the board today. I appreciate your perspective, and I'm very grateful for your opinions and for your views. I will be supporting this today because I feel that the gift and what it entails for the university system, and not only the students that are here today, but the students that will come in the future, will be of great benefit. And I appreciate, again, so much for you sharing your views with me and with the rest of the board.
Thank you, Regent Sexton. Any other comments or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion passes. We'll move on to action item E. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Bao. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to action item F, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Rogers. Is there any discussions or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to action item G, I will entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Is there any discussion or corrections from the board? Any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Right, the last action item in Budget Admin and Audit Committee is action item H. I will entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board?
Chair Lozer, I'll be abstaining.
Thank you, Regent Southward. Is there any other discussions or comments or questions from the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. With a note that Regent Southworth has abstained from the vote. Thanks, Clay. All right, we have just one item left. Moving on to Academic Research and Student Affairs Committee. I will entertain a motion to approve the request to plan proposals.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Sexton. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, let's move on to our appeal. So the next item On your agenda is a campus appeal. You have each received the commissioner's decision and the written appeal with supporting documents submitted by the campus and the appellant. The issue before the board is whether to consider the appeal at a later meeting. Our appeal policy does not require us to accept an appeal if we're satisfied with the commissioner's review and decision. The sole question as to whether any regent believes the issues addressed in the commissioner's decision need further review by the board. If you do not wish to consider the appeal at the board level, it is not necessary to make a motion. A lack of action by the board will signify our decision not to consider the appeal. The appeal is confidential. The board will not address the individuals involved by name, the identity of the campus involved, or discuss the facts or the specific issues. Is there any general questions about this procedure? Nope. That being said, I will entertain a motion to hear the appeal. Hearing no motion, the appeal is denied. All right. Before we move on to our our May meeting annual election of our officers, I wanted to take a brief moment and just share my gratitude to Regent Sexton for your tenure on this board. It's very, very rare that we've ever had a student regent serve more than one term, and I can't think of any other person that could have done it other than you. And Regent Sexton, you have put in the time, the energy, the effort. You have this beautiful blend between using your mind and data and your heart, and what you bring to conversations, what you bring to the decisions that we make on this board. I have just been so incredibly impressed by your level of maturity, the mentorship that you've provided each and every one of us board members over the past couple years. I can't imagine what impact you're going to have in this world. I know it's going to be really, really big, and I'm just so grateful to personally to have been a part of your journey, and really look forward to seeing what you do in the future and the lives that you impact. So I just wanted to thank you for being a great model of public service to me and to the rest of this board and to the university system. So I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to see if any other board members had any other comments they might want to make about our departing Regent Sexton.
How do you say ditto? But really with a sincere heart and a thanks for sort of, I think, showing all of us the future and really inspiring at least someone of my ilk to know that really the world's going to be in a good spot when we have brilliant, caring leaders like yourself. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Amy. Honestly, I've never been accused of being the most articulate in the room, so I'll just leave it as thank you. But you've just done so much in your 2 appointments. I do think you probably are the only student regent to ever be reappointed by 2 governors from different political parties, so that stands on a pillar of its own and does say a whole lot about the character that you've brought to this position and your representative voice of students all across the MUS, and we just truly appreciate your service to Montana. Thank you.
Regent Bao?
Yes, I think Regent Sexton, it's been impressive how you always bring your comments and conversation and point of view back to the students. You're very student focused. The students across the state of Montana are lucky to have you as a representative. In addition to, you stepped up and served as chair of a committee, so I think you really showed some great leadership skills. And most importantly, you'll be happy to know that I do have a Starbucks virtual gift card headed your way. Since most of you know, she had to supply me most mornings with my Starbucks since I haven't learned the locations in every town yet. So thank you.
Yes, Regent Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, Regent Sexton, I'm going to miss you so much. I think one of the things I appreciate most is your really critical mind and the way that you approach the questions that made me also think more deeply about the issues that were before us. We've had so many great opportunities to debate the different topics, and I just have to reflect about how much was on your plate between work, full-time school, and then also representing all the students, which, you know, not everyone did as much as you. You know, you attended every mass meeting. You really took time to make sure that no matter how much was on your plate, the students were at the forefront of our discussions, and we're so fortunate to have, you know, a full student region on our board, and you did such a great service to our students to be able to ensure that their concerns were heard during all of our meetings, so thank you.
I had a chance, and thank you. I had a chance in the Arts Committee to share some observations of the impact you've had on everyone, and I do echo the thought I shared earlier that you have a lot of pathways in front of you, and we don't count out seeing you again. You've just been such a positive contribution in so many angles, Amy. It's been a real pleasure to serve with you. Good luck.
I don't want to be left out here. Amy, I haven't known you a long time, but I pride myself on having an eye for talent, and from our first conversation, you really, really impressed me. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for your future, and it was great to get to know you.
Well, that just leaves Regent Sexton. Do you want to say anything? No pressure.
Yeah. Well, you've all been encouraged to listen to my graduation speech, so, you know, you can go do that. That was better prepared than this. I would just like to leave it all with the fact that I'm a product of your university system. So whatever you see in me and whatever I've accomplished is because of you. A lot of you know my background. It was rough. And you've made it possible. So I also want to say, in terms of when I look at students, I learned from all of you are amazing mentors and set amazing examples. I have a quote, which is why I will reference this quote, but I know all of you are student focused. But I remember one time it's not always easy to make these decisions. You know, when I got on the board, I thought, man, you guys make this look so easy. And then I start looking at these situations, and they're challenging, and they're complex, and I don't always know what the right decision is. But it was President Waded Cruzado when I asked her, well, how do you make your decisions? And you told me, you said, it's always about the student. It's always about the student. And so I would just say all of you have played a role in my transformation. So if you think I'm doing well, then please congratulate yourselves. So, and please keep transforming the lives of other students. And I know you will. So thank you. It's been such an honor.
Hear, hear. President Cruzado.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, on behalf of Montana State University, I just need to say, Amy Sexton is just an amazing person. When we talk about the miracle of the land-grant university, right, that it took us 700 years to emerge from the model of the European university. 700 years, when you think about it, right? In the early 11th century, countries like Italy and France and the UK and Spain then came up with this idea, but 700 years later in America, we were doing exactly the same thing in terms of higher education. Colleges and universities were, for the most part, private. Colleges and universities had a very reduced academic portfolio, and colleges and universities were reserved for mostly people coming from very wealthy families, particularly men. And along came one individual, because that's all you need to transform, just one person, and said, let's change this, right? Let's open not one private university, one public university. And then to the vision of moving from private to public good, then let's open one public university in each state and territory of the Union. And by the way, let's do that so that we can educate the sons and daughters of the working families of America. The Morrill Act, which was approved in 1862, is the first time that any congressional bill includes the name or the word daughters, right? And it's for us to think about. In 1862, we were right in the middle of a civil war. And as a people, we came together to envision not the travails of the time, but the promise of the future, the things that we can do, the better and brighter future that we can enjoy when we educate the citizenry. People like Amy Sexton. And now that door is open. It's open forever, Amy. No one can take this away from you. And that will be to your benefit, but to the benefit of their family and the benefit of the communities that you're going to impact positively. So let me know when you're ready for a job opportunity at Montana State University. In the meantime, I have a gift for you. Go Cats.
All right. Well, we look forward to you soon returning to Montana after your successful trip, very short trip to Chicago. With that, I will turn over the meeting to Commissioner Christian to conduct our officer elections.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want that gavel. Kind of a power trip thing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, pursuant to Article 4 of your own bylaws, we are to elect a chair and vice chair at the most opportune time following the 1st of May each year. So that leads us to this meeting and the election of officers. For all of you that haven't been through this process, we will call for nominations, or I will here in just a moment, starting with the chair, and then we'll move to the vice chair. If we have multiple nominations, we will do voting on each nomination individually. We don't do it as a ballot, so we would vote on each candidate, either a yes or a no by the entire board. So with that, at this time, I would like to open up the floor for nominations to serve as chair of your Montana Board of Regents. Are there any nominations?
I would nominate Brianne Rogers to be chair and to fill the very big shoes of outgoing chair Casey Lozar. Thank you for your service, Casey.
Thank you, Regent Bao. Are there any additional nominations? Seeing none, I would close the floor for nominations, and we will call for a vote. So at this time, you have before you a nomination for Regent Brianne Rogers to serve as chair. Is there any comment on that nomination? Any public comment on the nomination?
I do have just a very
Sorry.
brief comment.
Regent
I've had
Lozar.
the opportunity the last couple of years to work alongside Bree as an officer team. I'm just so impressed with your commitment, your dedication, your communication skills. So I absolutely support you as our next chair.
Any further comments, members of the board? Seeing none. Oh, any public comment? One last time. Public comment. Seeing none. All those in favor of Brianne Rogers serving as chair for the next year, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Regent Rogers, thank you for serving as chair. Members of the board, same process for vice chair. At this time, I'd open up the floor for nominations for an individual to serve as vice chair of the board.
I would like to nominate Todd Buchanan to serve as vice chair.
Thank you, Regent Sexton. Any further nominations? Seeing none, I would close the floor for nominations. And with that, you have in front of you a motion for Regent Todd Buchanan to serve as vice chair for the next year. Are there any comments about the nomination? Is there any public comment on the nomination? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of Regent Todd Buchanan to serve as vice chair for the coming term, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Thank you, Regent Buchanan. You've been elected vice chair. Thank you. And with that, Mr. Chair, our elections are over. I would like to be the first to tell you thank you for your service. You are, in fact, one of the longest serving chairs on this board. Some chairships go on for a very long time. That's not been the history here, and the 3 years you've served in this position have been tremendous. You know, most people don't realize how much I get to talk to our board leadership team by design a couple times a month, but much more frequent, and you've always been there and picked up the phone and provided tremendous advice and counsel, and appreciate your willingness to do that. It is a little above and beyond the call of duty, which is already significant as a board member, so I really, truly appreciate your leadership in this role. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would hand you back the gavel for you to keep. That has been the tradition. All right. Thank you.
So I'll gavel one last time. The meeting is adjourned, but I will let Chancellor Kegel have the last say and any instructions for the campus tour.
Yes, I'd like to say a couple things. The event has been phenomenal for our campus. I want to kind of just reach out and thank everybody for the generous comments that we've received. The staff has appreciated all of those, so thank you for that. We're prepared to give you lunch. They're in sacks, so when you go out, you can grab a sack lunch. And we do have a tour prepared that we're going to invite everybody on, so the more the merrier on that. And the last thing is just safe travels home. I know there's a little bit of a storm, and take care getting home. Thank you.